in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You won the lottery. You woke up in the greatest country in history. Believe me when I say that, after where I spent yesterday, what you are experiencing this morning is a lot better than probably what a lot of other people are facing, especially in some of these Venezuelan gang-controlled areas of Aurora, Colorado. I saw a lot of human suffering yesterday. We went down to these apartment complexes. We have original audio talking to the people that live there, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that people that live near us are having to face what they are facing. We're going to talk about that here in just a minute. We've got a whole lot to cover today. In fact, George Brauchler is going to be joining us in just a second, give us an update on the opening arguments that were made yesterday in the Boulder King Soopers shooting trial that began yesterday. That felt like that happened 10 years ago. But no, it's just now kicking off the case that happened in 2021. But they're getting to the actual case now, finally moving forward on that 7 o'clock hour. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, Congressman Chip Roy, and former ICE acting director Tom Hammond joins us, as well as John Fabbricatore, all live in studio. I mean, this is going to be absolutely incredible. A few hours you're not going to want to miss as we dive into what's happening here in the city of Aurora. We know the truth. We actually know the truth. We went down and spoke with the residents, and it is going to shock you what we learned. And then finally, 9 o'clock hour, we're going to wrap up the week with a little cowboy poetry with Jeff Hildebrandt. You're not going to want to miss that. So absolutely jam-packed show, one you're going to want to be with us for its entirety. Let's first check in on news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Well, TGIF, Jeff and
you,
Billy. Yes, it's going to be a great show, great day, great morning, beautiful weather outside, 53 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
You can never have that partner if these radical Marxists win the election. So I thank you. And God bless Israel. God bless America. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Hey, former President Trump at the New York Economic Club last night. And if you're still confused, here's a great reason to vote for Trump. Do you care about interest rates and housing prices in Colorado? I do. So does Trump.
Very, very low. We'll get them down. We had them down to 2.4% and even lower than that for a period of time. Reducing mortgage rates is a big factor. We're going to get them back down to, we think, 3%, maybe even lower than that, saving the average home buyer thousands of dollars per year. They can now go out. Young people will be able to buy a home again and be a part of the American dream. We will eliminate regulations that drive up housing costs with the goal of cutting the cost of a new home in half. We think we can do that. The regulations alone cost 30%. Regulation costs 30%. And we will open up portions of federal land for large-scale housing construction. These zones will be ultra-low tax and ultra-low regulation.
Also on Thursday, Trump telling Jewish voters that if he's reelected, he'll punish U.S. colleges who spread anti-Semitic propaganda. Trump made the comment Thursday at a meeting of the Republican Jewish Coalition in Las Vegas. Speaking remotely to the crowd, Trump said, colleges must end the anti-Semitic propaganda or they'll lose accreditation. A suspect is still at large after shots were fired at Englewood police officers during an early Thursday morning car chase. Police spotted a stolen pickup near South Broadway and it refused to pull over. The truck began speeding down various side streets while the driver shot at the pursuing officers. Police say they lost sight of the truck near South Zuni and West Bates, and none of the officers were injured. The vehicle is described as a white 2011 Chevy Silverado, and anyone who has information on it or its driver should contact the Englewood Police Department. The Boulder King Soopers mass shooting trial is underway. Ahmad Alissa is accused of killing 10 people inside the store in 2021 and has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. His attorneys focused on his schizophrenia diagnosis and said he was delusional and hallucinating leading up to the shooting. However, prosecutors said Alissa knew right from wrong and described the shooting as deliberate and intentional. A pilot has died following a Thursday morning plane crash in Morgan County. The crash happened in a rural area between Hill Rose and Snyder. The pilot was pronounced dead at the scene. The investigation is underway. Hunter Biden could face 17 years in prison after pleading guilty to all counts in his federal tax trial on Thursday. The president's son is accused of failing to pay more than $1 million in federal taxes during a 4-year period beginning in 2016. The influence peddling in Ukraine is even worse. It's just never ending with the left. The 14-year-old being charged with 4 counts of felony murder following Wednesday's school shooting in Georgia will make his first court appearance this morning. He's accused of shooting over a dozen people at Appalachia High School. His father is facing multiple charges for knowingly allowing his son to have access to a weapon. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Down by 7 as time expires. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens try to tie the Chiefs in Kansas City from the Chiefs' 10-yard line last night in the NFL kickoff.
Lamar trying to make magic happen, throw it end zone, Likely to be down, yes, touchdown, what a play, Isaiah Likely.
Wait a minute.
Let's make sure.
Oh,
Very close.
oh.
Is there enough to overturn?
Oh, that's on the line, isn't it?
Yes, his toes on the line's out, and that's the game. And the Chiefs win it. They want to know the Ravens fall to 0-1 to kick off the season. 50 in North Glen, 51 in Lakewood, 53 in Denver, getting ready for some big college football games tomorrow. CSU playing host to UNC. CU takes on Nebraska, and much more. We'll talk about those throughout the morning. Jeff and Bill continue. TGIF.
Head hate on me. Can't stop DJ T, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me.
Yeah, let's go. Let's get ready for the weekend. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Beautiful September weather for Denver in the Front Range. Enjoy. Days will be warm and sunny with low humidity. The nights will be clear, getting a little cooler. You can crack that window open at night. We're looking at low to mid 80s today, middle to upper 80s Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Nights will mostly stay in the 50s. Chances of rain will be just a few isolated thunderstorms near the mountains. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, a special Friday edition of the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us is George Brauchler. You know that name. District Attorney candidate for Colorado Judicial District 23. Give us a little insight on the opening arguments made yesterday in the Boulder King Soopers shooting case. Ahmad Alissa, 25 years old, is charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder in the 2021 mass shooting. Jorge, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Buddy, thanks for having me on. I'm actually pretty excited to hear your description of the trip down to Little Venezuela, or what do we have developing down in Aurora. So I'm excited for that. Thank you for letting me talk about this. Couple things. Everybody can watch this trial as it unfolds. If you just Google Colorado Judicial Live Streaming, it'll take you to a link on the right-hand side. You drop down the number of courts to Boulder. You go to courtroom G, as in George, and boom, you're there watching. Another thing to know is state judicial has no friggin' idea how to do video of anything. So the two views you're going to get, if you go to watch this trial, you'll hear everything. The two views you're going to get are Judge Ingrid Bakke just staring off into the courtroom, and the other view is straight ahead at the two attorneys' tables, and then all the peanut gallery behind them. You don't get to see the prosecutor talk to the jurors during opening. You can hear them. You don't get to see a single thing they present to the jurors. It's really a pretty poor setup. But nonetheless, you can hear what they're saying. And there were some incredible revelations. First off, DA Michael Doherty, the elected, led the charge. He did the jury selection. He's doing the opening statement. That's the right way to go. There are a lot of DAs out there in the modern era who just don't have the experience or wherewithal to do it. Like, for instance, you never saw Phil Weiser anywhere near the courtroom during the Elijah McClain trials, any one of the five. DA Doherty leads the charge. His discussion with the jury revealed some things that you and I have never heard of before. So he went through in detail the injuries of each of the 10. And his point was the number, nature, and kind of wounds that they have tell you that this guy acted with intent. And that's important, because when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're eating that you engaged in the conduct. You're admitting that, right? But in Colorado, which has the highest, toughest standard for insanity on prosecutors in America, the prosecutor now has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt two whole things. One is that you could form the intent to murder after deliberating, and that two, you knew right from wrong. If you can't prove both those beyond a reasonable doubt, dude's going to be sent to a state mental hospital instead of prison. That's just going to happen. So he says the number, nature, and the kinds of wounds. And one of the things I did not realize was that with the exception of one victim, every single victim was shot multiple times. And the way he described how these things took place is, it just makes your stomach hurt to think about this. Nobody that was shot was injured. Now, you remember in Aurora Theater, we have 12 dead, but you have 70 others that were injured from gunfire and shotgun blast, all that other stuff. Here, if he shot you, you died, because he tended to follow up. The only victim that was shot once was shot straight away right in the face, and so instantly killed her. But he comes up on people, he pursues them. The sad story of Officer Eric Talley goes into the King Soopers with two other officers. They don't see him. It's eerily silent except for the little music that plays overhead in the supermarket, because everyone's either dead or hiding. And they step in, and out of nowhere, a bullet comes and left to right through the head of Eric Talley. And then this guy follows up and shoots him again and kills him. It was really intense to hear about those things. But the other key takeaway is that Mike Doherty says, folks, pay attention to this. Every single mental health professional that reviewed this guy for sanity found him to be sane. And he said it twice. And what that told me right then and there is the defense could not find somebody to say that their client was sane. And that's amazing, because if you remember from Aurora Theater, they were able to find two people, unqualified people, but two people to say that the shooter was insane. Here, this jury is not going to hear from a single psychiatrist that's going to say this dude is insane. That's a huge takeaway. So that goes on for about an hour and 40 minutes. And I think it's a nice job. I wish I could have seen the PowerPoint. They then take a break. They go in for the defense. And this guy named Sam Dunn, who a public defender, gets up. He has a much slower, and I understand why, unemotional pace, but it's the kind of pacing where I could have nodded off at one point in the middle of it, but I didn't. So I pay attention. And what it comes down to is this. Remember those two prongs? The one is you have to have the intent to murder after deliberate, and the other is you have to know right from wrong. Well, Sam Dunn concedes that his client, when he showed up to the King Soopers that day, is not only the shooter, but he had the intent to murder everybody he shot. Boom. One of those prongs is gone entirely. So now the entire case will come down to whether or not the jury believes beyond a reasonable doubt that when he's pulling the trigger, he knows right from wrong. And that was an incredible thing to come out of this case. And then the final thing that I think that Sam Dunn does, which is not going to be enough to win the day, in my opinion, but it's intriguing, is he said, hey, you know what? The DA's right. We don't have to prove why it happened. He doesn't have to prove why it happened. He doesn't have to prove motive, but they can't tell you why. They can't tell you why he did it, why he went into the store that day and committed these horrible acts. And the reason they can't tell you why is because that guy is insane. And while he's right, the law doesn't require that. That's an interesting thing. Every juror I know wants to know why something happened, even if the court tells him you don't have to bother yourself with that. So that's an intriguing thing. We'll see how that thing plays out. And then he makes a mistake at the end. At the end, he says, come back and find my client sane. That's not the standard. He created a hill he didn't have to climb. The DA has to prove that he's sane. The jury doesn't get to find somebody insane. It's like, come back and find my client innocent. You don't have to find him innocent. You end up finding him guilty or not guilty. So incredible series of opening statements. They got into some witness testimony in the afternoon. First responders, and when I say first responders, that's a misstatement. It's all people that were there at the scene when this thing went down, many of them civilians. They had a person that made the 911 call. They had one of the 911 calls. They had a guy who was on the phone with a dude who was sitting in his car when he watches the shooter get out of the car. And the last words he says as the shooter is walking up on him to a coworker on the phone is, "What the F?" And then the guy puts 4 rounds into him, including 2 into his head, 1 right through his left eye. I mean, this guy was just relentless and brutal in his approach. It was a compelling testimony, and there'll be another few weeks of this stuff. So if you want to watch it, you can go out to that website.
Talking with George Brauchler, candidate for district attorney in Colorado Judicial District 23. George, this took place 3 years ago. Why has it taken so long to get to this point in the case?
Such a great question. If you'll recall, there was an initial finding after, there's some delay that's built into the front end of the case. No public defender or defense attorney wants to rush to get to the court on this. They want to delay it. And if they sense that there is some mental health issue, this is a tactic, I'm telling you this happens, where they will try to leave their client unmedicated and alone inside a jail as long as possible to exacerbate the mental health issue that exists. And that's exactly what happened here. So from March, when this guy's grabbed up after the mass murder, until December, he is in the jail, untreated, unmedicated, and by himself. He's going to be in a cell all by himself because he's a high-profile shooter and all this other stuff. So he's unmedicated. Then the defense says, well, our client's incompetent, Your Honor. He can't assist us in his own defense because he can't appreciate what's going on in the courtroom and the charges and all that other stuff. And they send in the state docs to go look under the hood and kick the tires, and they come back and they say, we think he's incompetent. And that thing lasts for a long time until the prosecutors convince the judge to say he needs to be forcibly medicated and treated in order to bring him back to competence. They go through that process, and after he's medicated, after a period of time, the state hospital comes back and says he's good to go. So he's now ready to go. So the defense is going to try to play up the fact that for a long time he was found to be incompetent and he was going through this. But the prosecutors headed that off at the pass in the opening by saying to the people, hey, from March to December, by his own choice, he was unmedicated, he was untreated, and he was in a jail cell by himself after committing this heinous murder. And it's a dirty little tactic that the defense uses. But if the goal is to try to exculpate your guy from having to face a lifetime of prison, that's the tactic they use. Did the same kind of thing in the Aurora Theater case.
George, it's been 3 years. In all that time, in all the conversations, there's no sense of a motive with this guy, Ahmad Alyssa, that there was no religious motivation or personal frustration or anything like none of his writings, none of this conversation. There's no sense of what a motive was for this.
No. I mean, and that's an amazingly frustrating thing to hear, because with motive, if you're listening to it, you can then rationalize why somebody did something, and it gives you a sense of control and an ability in the future to anticipate, prevent, that kind of thing. I didn't hear a single motive from DA Michael Dougherty, and the defense highlighted the fact you're not going to hear a motive here. Now, this guy started planning 2 months before this. In January, of course, they toss his computers and his phones, and they find that he's searching for terms like, what's the best, most lethal bullet to use? And he's searching up images of guns and other equipment, 6,000 images that he goes through. And even though they can find all that information of the stuff that he's doing to plan for this, they don't find any other reason for it. Now, I'll take you back to Aurora Theater. We would have been in the exact same position with that shooter, but for the fact that he ends up writing this notebook and sends it out to the psychiatrist. And then we got to see his forensic interview with the psychiatrist every minute of it. That's the only place where I can think of in this case we might get some indication of it, is when the psychiatrists testify, if they play any of the video recording of it. But I'm telling you, if it existed, you would have heard it from DA Dougherty. I listened for it. I couldn't come up with it.
I mean, it is amazing. We're 24, 48 hours removed from the high school shooting in Georgia, and you have a collection of this kid's life, what he went through, his parents, all that stuff. And with this case, I don't feel like we really know that much. Who is this guy? What is his background? What was he doing in his life? Was he working? Where's he from? Do you know any of that about Ahmad Alissa, the man charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder in the Boulder King Soopers shooting?
It's true. He came from a family where I think he was born outside the country, but his entire life was here. Like, he doesn't know any other country. Speaks perfect English. Graduated from A West out there in Jefferson County. And he was at the time working for his parents, who own multiple restaurants in the area. And he was working, this is according to, I think, the DA, he was working about 10 hours a day, 6 days a week in these restaurants. He also never showed, though, any initiative. Like, his family kept trying to push him into, hey, do you want to take over one of these restaurants? Do you want to manage? Do you want all this other stuff? And he just never showed any interest in that kind of thing. Some of the things that are going to come up are that for a long time, his family suspected that he was starting to suffer from some mental issues. And in fact, he ends up getting diagnosed later with schizophrenia. And the defense hammers on that, saying, look, here's a guy that was struggling with all of the telltale signs of early schizophrenia, and it went undiagnosed and untreated for years, and that's why we're here. The reason I'm not convinced that's a winner is because a diagnosis of any serious mental illness is not enough for insanity. And folks need to remember, insanity isn't a diagnosis. It is a legal conclusion that is got to by all these other factors. And so you could have schizophrenia, just like the Aurora Theater shooter, but if you know right from wrong and you can form the intent to murder, then you're guilty. In this particular case, that undiagnosed schizophrenia likely leads this guy to live a day in, day out life of relative routine, but he shows no ambition, no interest in progressing. And so that's what we know about this guy, is he is part of a big family that has a bunch of restaurants, very successful family, and he just kind of went on about his business.
George Brauchler, district attorney candidate for Colorado Judicial District 1023. Easy for me to say this morning. George, thanks for the time today. I want to talk about some of the tactics. I'm curious when we're talking about this King Soopers shooting and the defense. Why do you feel the defense would concede intent early on? I look at that and you talk about the two-prong attack. You need intent and then you need knowing right from wrong. Why in the world, as a defense, would you concede intent on day one? I just don't understand the tactics. What would be the possibility?
A couple of reasons there. A big one is, I think, as they look at the evidence in the presentation, that they come to the conclusion that they lose credibility with the jury if, after the 2 months of planning and the way this guy goes on and literally goes through execution within the store and outside the store, they conclude the jury won't believe us on the other things that we can get them on if we try to fight them on this one that's so clearly obvious. I think that's one big thing. I think the other thing is they're trying to take that issue off the table. You can't entirely. They're trying to, because they probably looked at the Aurora Theater case and saw that this idea of insanity was blunted pretty heavily by the fact that there was great detailed planning, 2.5 months of planning. And so for them, what they want to tell the jury is, yeah, we get it. He planned for it. He went in there. He wanted to kill all those people. Now move that aside and focus on this part. Dude is so unmedicated, untreated, schizophrenic. He doesn't know right from wrong. And so they put all their chips. It's like betting on black 3. You know what I mean? Or if that's even a number you can get in black and roulette. You're putting all your money on that one thing and saying, let it ride, baby. Let's do this thing.
Wow. Now, how difficult is it going to be for the defense to show that he didn't know right from wrong, especially given some of the things that you talked about, how he hunted down some of his victims? He chased them down. He made sure they were dead. How does the defense come to the jury and say, well, I know that he made these series of choices, but he had no idea he was doing something wrong inside of it? How do you get to there?
It's a tough one. It's a huge hurdle. But the two things I took away from the opening statements, though, that could be anchors for the defense are, one, there's no motive. And as we talked about on the phone, Jeff's great question was, why did it happen? If you can't tell a jury why, it makes you wonder. Like, well, if there isn't a reason I can understand why they did it, maybe he is crazy, right? Like only a crazy person would engage in this without some sort of motive or goal. But the other part, I didn't mention this in the opening, it's fascinating. There is an old man shopping there in a cart. And you can see on the video, apparently, because of course you and I can't see because of the crappy state judicial cameras, but apparently he's on the video as this guy is moving through, shooting and killing these people that are hiding and trying to run away. And some of them that hid lived where others that hid nearby got up to run, and he zeroed in on them with this sort of high-powered, super fancy electronic red dot scope and just dropped them, shot him a couple times through the back and in the head, and then moved on. There's a guy shopping, an old guy shopping, who seems to have no fear of this guy. And he's just kind of stopped there standing with his cart. Dude clearly sees him and ignores him, ends up going and killing another person, comes back, sees this guy again who's moving around, but never engages him. And so if you're the defense, you look at that and say, if this guy is all about just the deliberate, relentless murder of all of these people, why does he let that guy live? Why doesn't he engage him at all? And the only answer is it's bonkers. He's insane. The guy doesn't understand why he's doing what he's doing. And that's why that guy gets to live while everybody around him dies.
Ooh.
And there's no motive. Those are the two things.
Now that's interesting. George Brauchler, candidate for Judicial District 23, on with Jeff and Bill right now. I want to talk about the idea of the prosecution and the tactics that you could employ with the idea that you don't know why this happened. And what I'm getting to is, could the prosecution say, we don't know why it happened, but the fact he's not telling us shows us he's sane? Because if it was something crazy, he would want to tell everybody about it. The idea that I am protecting everybody in here from the lizard people, or I'm, whatever that psychotic break is, normally those people tend to give voice to it. Could they possibly say the fact that he is keeping this internal tells us that he knows it's wrong and he knows that the motive is wrong? Could they use that?
Really, really insightful question. And the answer is yes. So unless it's a Christmas or birthday present, people don't hide good things from other people. They hide the bad things from other people. And so the fact that he engages in this 2 months of searching online and planning and purchasing and keeps it secret from the family he lives with and works with 60 hours a week or whatever it is, yes, Billy, that is a sign that he knows right from wrong. And my guess is we're going to hear those two state doctors, Dr. Gray and Dr. can't remember their last name. They're going to testify about other things like that, but that in particular, it's very insightful. The other thing is, after this guy gets done murdering these 10 people, when law enforcement shows up and the two officers that went in with Officer Talley retreat, they show up and they call into this place. And it's basically like a stop and you're surrounded sort of thing come out. Dude puts down his gun. Dude takes off his shirt. He had on ballistic vest. Ballistic vest tells you something too. If he's got a bulletproof vest, that means he expects other people to try to shoot him. And the only reason people would try to shoot you is, one, you're outside of a Raiders game, or 2, you've done something that you think they would want to shoot you to stop you. And so in this particular case, he takes it off. He even takes off his pants, his shirt, and everything, gets down to his underwear. And there are people hiding that hear him say, don't shoot, I'm giving up, I'm stopping, and all that other stuff. Those are things that tell you that he understands right from wrong. If he thought what he was doing was okay, he would have no reason to suspect that law enforcement was going to potentially visit harm on him for doing it.
Talking with George Brauchler, candidate for district attorney in Colorado's 23rd Judicial District. It's just going to be a lot easier to say district attorney here in a few months anyways. But
so much easier.
George Brauchler. And, George, I listen to this, and then what gets me too is this guy should be found guilty on all this, and he should fry. And instead, he's going to just go live quietly somewhere in the state of Colorado for the rest of his life, because we don't have the death penalty anymore. So
we don't.
That's frustrating. That's incredibly frustrating. We're going to continue to follow this case. This is the Boulder King Soopers shooting. It took place 3 years ago. And Ahmad Alyssa, 25 years old, is charged with 10 counts of first-degree murder. You're not going to find any better analysis of this case than what's happening here on 710 KNUS, because we got cool friends like George Brauchler. George,
Super
thanks
cool.
so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, thank you.
I love the show. Thanks for having me on. Talk to you guys
Have
later.
a good day. Take care.
See you, George. Look, for many of us, it's happening. Your hair is thinning. Your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity is lost altogether. Well, I've got good news. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day. And it's guaranteed to grow for life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. We've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. They help retain what you have. But what if what you want is your own natural hair growing permanently in specific areas? From Advanced Hair's state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Paul's, it's not maybe will your hair grow, it's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. Which is why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So just wrapped up talking with George Brauchler about the Boulder King Soopers shooting trial that opened yesterday with opening arguments. Heartbreaking to hear that, especially in light of the shooting that took place over in Georgia as well. Dad being charged with second-degree murder. The dad of the shooter.
That's interesting.
Fascinating. So
that's really interesting.
A lot to cover there. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, Lauren Boebert, Congressman Chip Roy, former ICE acting director Tom Homan, and John Fabbricatore are all live in studio. You're not going to want to miss that. So, Bill, after the show yesterday, a group of us went down to Whispering Pines.
Yeah, I could not join you, but you guys were a bunch of you going on there. Yeah. Tell me about it.
It was very hard. Very hard to see.
In what way?
Because there's a lot of human suffering.
Yeah, I bet.
And that's important to keep in mind in all of this debate.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination, is what Jared Polis said. Well, there's people who are going through things that make everything that we're going through just look, it's just a totally different life. It's like a totally different life.
So describe to me the situation. What'd you see down there? Set the scene.
So Whispering Pines was one of 3 apartment complexes that have been kind of named as being taken over by Trende Aragua, I think is how you pronounce it, TDA, Venezuelan gang. And the debate has been over whether or not this is just kind of a figment of conservatives and their imagination. And it wouldn't really be a national story because there's gang problems in most major cities in America. But it became a national story because the governor said that this was a feature of Danielle Jurinsky, a conservative city councilwoman's imagination. Channel 9, Denver Post, Aurora Sentinel saying, no. It's just a bad landlord.
Yeah.
It's just a bad landlord. It's just a landlord-tenant issue.
Yeah.
You guys are trying to make it about illegal immigration, and you're the bad guys for even raising it.
Yeah.
So that's why it became a national story. So we decided to just go down to Whispering Pines. We wanted to try to visit all of them, but we spent so much time talking to the actual tenants of Whispering Pines. And I will tell you, everybody we talked to that lives at Whispering Pines was an illegal immigrant.
Everyone?
Every single person that we talked to
now that's
was not there legally.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, the neighbors were there in this country legally, and they were Black, Mexican, Guatemalan.
Yeah.
We spent almost 2.5 hours talking to people. I will begin with this. The idea that there's no gang presence there is insane.
I bet. I would assume that.
I have spent time with Palestinian protesters. I've spent time at protests against kind of social conservatives and I've spent some time in some intense situations. I have never been in a more intense situation than I was there.
Really?
Word got out that we were there. There were a number of cars that came by and would drive by very slowly and look at us and try to intimidate us and yell things at us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And they don't like the attention.
No, not at all.
They have the control. And to be honest, Bill, that's part of the reason why I did it.
Yeah.
I was talking to my daughter about this yesterday, and I was describing the situation to her. She goes, well, what do you do? And I said, I'm doing what I think I can do.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this. We try to shine light on this.
Yep.
Because there are innocent people being victimized, and it's heartbreaking.
Oh, it's awful.
It's hard, and they're being victimized in a lot of different ways. So I will tell you, I want to address that. The idea that there aren't gangs down there is just is a lie. There are absolutely gangs present. It is an intimidating, horrible situation, and it should capture the attention of good Coloradans because we don't want to live in a state like this, and there are people suffering, and we need to address it. That's part of the motivation of what we're doing. Now, what gets into this complicated situation? Well, one, you're dealing with people that have been victimized this entire journey.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I stood and look, I'm a conservative, strong borders, all that. There's a woman right in front of me, tears coming down her eyes. She had traveled across 7 countries.
Geez, 7. Okay.
A jungle, raped all along the way.
Jeez.
To try to get to the United States.
Wow.
Right? It just as a Christian.
Yeah.
As a human being, you just look at that and you go, it's a horrible situation. And it makes me angry about what we have in this country with regards to our border policies, because we have a border policy. And the border policy is walk 7 countries, get raped along the way, and then you're going to live in the shadows in this country up here.
Yeah.
You know, it makes you angry as a human being that this is what we have put people into.
Yeah.
And you know, we can get into the nuances of policy and all that, but there is a human being that went through that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of human beings that have gone through that.
A lot.
It's heartbreaking. And I think there's a valid argument that we have set up a situation that invites that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you can make that point. Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely.
So you have that. You have a bunch of people living in poverty making poor personal decisions. Talk to people drinking at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Drunk at 10 a.m.
Wow.
Right. So you, in addition to all of that happening, they're making bad personal decisions.
Yeah. And you wonder at times when they're self-medicating in that way, is the self-medication part of the reason they're there? Or is it a symptom of what has happened since they are there? I mean, I'm not saying they made great decisions beforehand, but are some of them there leaning into the drinking and the drug abuse to escape what they're going through on a daily basis there? That it exacerbates.
You've been raped through 7 countries. You think you'd have a drink?
Yeah. And it may be just to, and if those thoughts start creeping in 9, 10 o'clock in the morning and you don't have any other resources available to help you get through that, maybe that's the way you escape. Maybe that's the way that you dull that pain, at least for a little while.
And I will tell you, there's absolutely a landlord issue. And we've never denied that.
No.
We've never been like, oh, it's just a gang issue. There's a landlord issue. You have doors broken off. You have windows broken off. They have no hot water running there. All that stuff.
I would say that the fact there is a gang issue there says there's a landlord problem.
Exactly.
That proves the point there's a landlord problem.
I wanted to get out of there as quickly as I could. The idea that as a landlord, you're going to go, I'm just going to go fix broken doors today at Whispering Pines apartment complex. No way. No way.
Wow.
And I asked the tenants this question. We'll wrap with this because we got to get to You Choose the News. And then we're going to continue what we saw all the way through the 7, 8 o'clock hours. We talked with Lauren Boebert, Chip Roy, former ICE acting director Tom Homand, and John Fabbricatore. Homand. We're going to continue. So we'll give you insight to what we saw. But we asked all the tenants there, including illegal immigrants, if they would like more police presence. And I have a direct message to Mike Kaufman from some of them.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes.
Wow.
Please.
Yeah.
And think about that in light of the Elijah McClain issues, including Black residents that live in that neighborhood. Want more police there. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
All right, Billy, give the people what they want. You choose the news.
Yes, it is time for the news edition of You Choose the News. Stories that were deemed unworthy of our attention.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Loser! Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
The Losers Club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser. You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, it's time for everybody's favorite fake radio news game show. You choose the news, but this is the loser edition. These are the stories that Jeff Hunt and Blake Olson in the newsroom decided were not worthy of our attention. They have a second shot of glory. All righty, gentlemen, here we go. Headline number 1, Peekaboo, I see right through you. Headline number 2, new housing plan. Headline number 3, awkward brand change. And headline number 4, why can't we be friends?
Peekaboo.
Peekaboo, I see right through you. Here we are traveling all the way to Stanford University. The science hippies at Stanford have figured out a way to do research on live animals by seeing right through them. They've created a cream that changes the opaqueness of skin cells in mice, so you can see through their tummies and see the digestion. Now, how do they do this? They did it with a very popular food dye. You may know this food dye as FD and C Yellow 5. It actually allows light absorption from ultraviolet and the blue part of the spectrum, which allows red and orange light to penetrate deeper into the tissue of the mice, rendering their skin clear. They can see inside to this mice tummies. Now, the fun thing is when they wash it off, mice are back to normal. You rub it on the bellies, you can see what's happening in the digestion system, and then you wash it off.
Is cool.
I know. So you actually can see into the mice, just like those weird plastic things that Blake and I had in science class with this, see-through human guy. Yeah.
Yes.
Alrighty, Blake, your choice, sir. New
Why
housing.
can't we be friends?
Why can't we? That is what Japanese researchers want to know. There is a bottlenose dolphin that has been bothering swimmers for the last couple of years. In fact, this bottlenose dolphin is responsible for 18 separate attack incidents just this year in a beach town of Tetsura. Now, the problem is the researchers are saying it's not a mean dolphin. He's lonely. He actually has lost his pod. He's a solo bottlenose dolphin, and they have this theory now that what he's trying to do is interact with the humans. He's trying to make friends, but has no idea how. So when he comes up and nuzzles you and then accidentally bites you, it's a love nibble. He's not really mad at you. But they're saying,
Nice.
their theory is they think he's just lonely.
I love it.
I know, lonely dolphin.
So
And
cute.
our final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt, new housing plan or awkward brand change?
True to form, awkwardness works well for me.
Awkward brand change. I love this one. This is totally on theme for this show. The Church of England is discovering they have a brand problem. People don't like the word church. No. In fact, the Church of England, in some of their new outreach programs, when they're building new churches and starting new outreach programs, they're using the word of community. They're using the word of what is it, the other congregation, but they're avoiding the use of the word church because they have found out that people in England don't like the word church. So let's review,
Mosque?
class. Let's review. No, hang on. The Church of England has found out the English people do not like them using the word church. I wonder who could possibly be responsible for the people in England not liking the word church in the name Church of England.
That's great.
Obviously, the Church of England owns no mirrors and no self-reflection. So, yeah, that's it, guys. That's the end of You Choose the News. As always, Jeff and Blake, you're a big giant winners, and I'm a huge loser. Back to you, sir.
We'll continue our conversation about what we saw down at Whispering Pines, one of the apartment complexes in Aurora overtaken by Venezuelan gangs, and Lauren Boebert and her friends joining us. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Man, what a great song to kick off Friday, Billy Boy. It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Friday, September 6th, and you've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you won the lottery. You woke up in the greatest country in history. We're gearing up for another hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and back in action, the text message line. Thank you, Mark Crowley, for getting that figured out for us. So give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text the show on the 710 KNUS app, or by punching into your phone, 720-892-6757. That's 720-892-6757. When we come back from the news and commentary with Blake Olson, give you an update. We went down to Whispering Pines. This is one of the apartment complexes that is just a feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination that gangs have overtaken that. And I will tell you, from the people that we interviewed, spent 2.5 hours down there, it is a very intimidating, scary place with a very strong gang presence. And depending on who you ask, blacks told us it was Venezuelan gangs. Guatemalans told us it was Venezuelan gangs. Whites told us it was Venezuelan gangs. I think it was Nicaraguans that told us it was Venezuelan gangs. The only people that told us there were no Venezuelan gangs were the Venezuelans we talked to, who said everything is fine. And in fact, it's the black gangs that are the problem. So that contributes to a lot of confusion over the story. Who you talk to totally gives you a different perspective. And so in many ways, you kind of bounce back and forth down there. But to a T, just about everybody asks for more police presence. Gives you a little bit of insight. So we've got audio and interviews from folks that are living in these apartment complexes. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's check in first. News, commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Morning, Jeff and Billy. Good work, Jeff. 53 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
Every single mental health professional that reviewed this guy for sanity found him to be sane. And he said it twice. And what that told me right then and there is the defense could not find somebody to say that their client was sane. And that's amazing.
The great George Brauchler on his old show with Jeff and Bill this morning. Such expert analysis. It's awesome. Of the Boulder King Soopers mass shooting trial, which is underway. Ahmad Alissa is accused of killing 10 people inside the store 3 years ago and has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. George says DA Michael Dougherty uncovered some crucial information.
The number, nature, and kind of wounds that they have tell you that this guy acted with intent. And that's important because when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're eating that you engaged in the conduct. You're admitting that, right? But in Colorado, which has the highest, toughest standard for insanity on prosecutors in America, the prosecutor now has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt two whole things. One is that you could form the intent to murder after deliberating, and that two, you knew right from wrong. If you can't prove both those beyond a reasonable doubt, dude's going to be sent to a state mental hospital instead of prison. That's just going to happen.
DA Dougherty also said that for the first time, that was George, by the way, and then he said that DA Dougherty also said that for the first time that Alissa researched bomb-making materials, guns, previous mass shootings, and how to clear a hallway without being shot. The trial will last 3 weeks. The 14-year-old being charged with 4 counts of felony murder following Wednesday's school shooting in Georgia will make his first court appearance this morning. He's accused of shooting over a dozen people at Appalachia High School. His father is facing multiple charges for knowingly allowing his son to have access to a weapon. Former President Trump speaking to the New York Economic Club last night, and unlike Kamala Khan and the commies, he wants to unleash energy and make America great again.
First, I will end Kamala Harris's anti-energy crusade and implement a policy of energy abundance, energy independence, and even energy dominance. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country, including Russia and Saudi Arabia. We'll be using it. My plan will cut energy prices in half or more than that within 12 months of taking office. It will be an economic revival of our country like no one has ever seen before.
Also on Thursday, Trump telling Jewish voters that if he's reelected, he'll punish U.S. colleges who spread anti-Semitism propaganda. Trump made the comment Thursday at a meeting of the Republican Jewish Coalition in Las Vegas. Speaking remotely to the crowd, Trump says colleges must end the anti-Semitic propaganda or they'll lose their accreditation. President Biden off the teleprompter and admits the Inflation Reduction Act, remember that, was not about inflation. No way. It was all about funding climate change.
My investments, through my investments, the most significant climate change law ever. And by the way, it is a $369 billion bill. It's called we should have named it what it was, but at any rate.
Wasting your money and lying about it. A pilot has died following a Thursday morning plane crash in Morgan County. The crash happened in rural, Hill Rose and Snyder in Colorado. The pilot was pronounced dead at the scene. All right, NFL last night, they kicked it off. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens try to tie the Chiefs in Kansas City from the 10-yard line, ready to score. And here's what happened.
Lamar trying to make magic happen, throw it end zone, likely 2 feet down, yes, touchdown, what a play, Isaiah Likely.
Let's make sure.
Oh,
Very close.
oh.
Is there enough to overturn?
Oh, that's on. That's on the line, isn't it?
Yes, and that was it. Stepped on the line, end of game, and the Chiefs win it. They're 1-0, and the Ravens 0-1. 49 in Castle Rock, 51 in Arvada, 53 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. TGIF, Blake Olson News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Beautiful September weather for Denver in the Front Range. Enjoy. Days will be warm and sunny with low humidity. The nights will be clear, getting a little cooler. You can crack that window open at night. We're looking at low to mid 80s today, middle to upper 80s Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Nights will mostly stay in the 50s. Chances of rain will be just a few isolated thunderstorms near the mountains. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So we really do have a great team here, Bill.
Yeah, we do.
A number of us went down yesterday to these apartment complexes in Aurora that there's a lot of dispute over whether or not Venezuelan gangs have a presence. They're harming people, have forced out the landlord. And if it was a simple issue with a simple solution, would have been taken care of. It's a complicated issue.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I've known in this job is that oftentimes the issues that we deal with in the media are a lot more complicated than the media likes to make them out to be. So early on, Channel 9, Denver Post said, no. This is a landlord dispute. And it's a feature of Danielle Jerinsky's imagination, Jared Polis said. That is totally incorrect. There is absolutely a gang presence there. They are intimidating. They were intimidating to us. I was down there with a former Denver police officer who looked like Dirty Harry, with his eyes steeled, because there were intense moments, numerous cars regularly, slowly driving by to intimidate you and to scare you off their turf. It was crystal clear.
Got a question about how long until those cars showed up. I'm just curious how long until they knew you were there, because I'm just curious about the communication system.
Yeah. You know, that's probably a better question for Mark Crowley, but he's busy working right now. But I would say I was intimidated pretty early on, within about 30 minutes.
He told me, okay, you just said yes, about 30 minutes.
Yeah, about 30 minutes, and then it got worse and worse.
Oh, yeah. Because you're hanging out.
Right.
You're not there to move around. And once you're there, once they see you're there, okay, it's a red flag. They look, okay, what are the gringos doing here? And oh my gosh, they have cameras and they're talking to people. What are they doing? And then as you spend more time there, you become more and more of a threat. They're more and more interested about what you're doing. So they're going to check you out. Yeah.
And you have more and more people that show up and want to talk to you. And look, it's news media and all that. And that's important. This is a message I need to send to the rest of my colleagues that are in the media industry. You need to shine light on this community.
Oh, yes.
This was a bad neighborhood before all this. This needs to be addressed. And if you can shine light on this, this helps innocent people there.
Yeah.
That's important.
And that is the part that's kind of that's lost in this conversation about the Venezuelan gangs and immigrants and those that broke the law to enter the country and those that are claiming asylum that don't actually have asylum. The core of this is that regardless of the situation of the people in that building, they are still innocent and shouldn't be victimized in this way.
You got kids.
Yeah.
You got little kids there.
Even if they crossed the river, the Rio Grande, under the cover of night and are in here illegally, and for whatever reason have gotten to stay in that apartment complex, it doesn't mean you then say it's okay for them to be victimized by gangs. That's just not
to have their
okay.
door kicked in with guys with long guns.
Yeah.
And
regardless of their immigration status,
all that
treating
stuff.
anybody this way is not okay.
Well, and to that point, Bill, if you're Mike Johnston or a Democrat who really cares about the plight of immigrants, get off your ass and go down there and address these problems. I'm sorry. You created a system that invited these people in, and they're being treated like hell because of some of these thugs down there. Do something about it.
You know, I really appreciate that, and I hadn't thought about that message until right then. I think you have hit the nail on the head, my friend. I think this should be the message that is sent to the Denver mayor, that is sent to the people working this immigration crisis. You are asking for an increase in sales tax to create more housing, to create more opportunity for these immigrants, and you're not fixing the problems they're dealing with today.
Yep.
How about you take some of that money and help the people that are already here deal with the housing situation they find themselves in, rather than asking the taxpayers for more money to create more housing situations? Because as of now, we have no indication that this isn't going to be status quo.
Right.
And it is status quo right now. We can assume that because this is what the people in charge are allowing to happen. So this is the system.
Yep.
And now they're asking us for more money. I'm sorry. Fix this part of the system. Show us, the Colorado taxpayers, that you can make this functional, that even if those people are here illegally for whatever reason, we can adjudicate that and we can talk about getting them out of here. That's fine. But fix how they are living first. You can't come to us and say, look at this great program, give us all this tax money because we're housing X number of illegal immigrants, if this is how you're housing them.
Right.
How dare you talk to us that way and ask for a single penny more if this is how the people, and regardless of their immigration situation, if this is how they are treated, if this is supposed to be expected living conditions, how dare you ask us for a single penny more?
That's right, Bill. It's
Ridiculous.
a third world country there.
Yeah.
The bottom line, it's a third world country. You have cars without license plates. You have broken doors, broken windows, trash everywhere. And you have people trying to make it work. But there is absolutely an evil presence. It's an intimidating presence. It is a gang presence that's taking place there. This is Jose, Mexican. He's been in America for 40 years. He lives next door. So what's your first name?
Jose.
Yeah. Do you live around here?
Across the street. But we notice we have a lot of problems over here, and thank you. Okay. In the community, police coming every day, shooters, somebody died twice. I think somebody died over here. So that's why the police is very alert, and they're going to move everybody from here. That's what it is.
Yeah. We've heard there's reports of a lot of gang activity in this community, exactly. Venezuelan gang activity.
Yeah, Venezuela guys, whatever happens, Mr. Maduro, the president of Venezuela, he take the guys from the jail and they send it to him with $300 in the pocket. That's what they do.
Wow. You said Maduro sent the guys from jail in Venezuela, gave them $300
to come to America. Wow. That's what Mr. Trump, he say they're coming criminals and, they come from jail. That's why Mr. Trump, he's okay. One thing, Mr. Trump, I mean, I don't like Mr. Trump, but he was right when the thing where he say they're coming from jail, they're coming from criminals, coming from America, and they want to clean the stuff.
Wow. Where are you from?
I'm from Mexico City.
From Mexico City? Okay. Over the last few months, has the gang violence gotten worse here?
Big time. Like 3 months ago, somebody died over here because they're shooting the guy, and the police coming almost every day over here.
That was fascinating. So here you have an immigrant from Mexico going, Donald Trump is right that Maduro sent the criminals from Venezuela up here to this country, and they're making his neighborhood worse. Jose continues. How long have you lived here?
America, 40 years old.
40? You've been up here 40 years. How long have you lived over there?
Like 2 years.
2 years. So you've seen a lot of activity in those 2 years.
It's bad stuff. I have my knife every night when I'm walking over here.
Really?
I'm scared about this place.
Now, Mayor Mike Kaufman, he's a friend of mine. I know Mayor Mike. What's your message to Mayor Mike? What could I tell Mayor Mike to do?
Well, try to fix this stuff, try to bring more security over here because these places is a mess. That's what I try to say.
I get that sense. There's a lot of cars going by very slow. It seems like a lot of activity right here.
No, it's coming very fast, and that's the way the Venezuelans coming. They don't respect the traffic stuff. There's something. They don't respect the people. They don't care about the people.
One of the reports that was written was that there's drug activity and prostitution, child prostitution happening here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really? You think child prostitution?
Yes, I do. I can see that. I do.
Wow.
I don't want to say nothing, but they do a lot of drugs over here and prostitution too. A lot of females, and they sell the body for money.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you taking time to speak with us. Thank you very much. That was Jose. He lives just across the street from the Whispering Pines apartment complex here in Aurora. Now, part of the complication, Bill, is that the perspective really changes on who you talk to. Here's some girls from Guatemala, and we asked them about the Venezuelans. Hola, do you live here?
¿Sí vives aquí?
Sí.
And how long have you lived here?
¿Cuántos años o meses has vivido?
5 años.
5 years.
5 years. There's reports of violence and gang activity in this community. Have you seen violence and gang activity?
Hay reportes de violencia y bandas, pandillas, gangas aquí. ¿Tú has visto eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Has it gotten worse recently?
¿Ha empeorado?
Peor. Sí, ha empeorado muchísimo, muchísimo.
Yeah, it's gotten worse.
Is it report is it's Venezuelan gangs, TDA, I don't know how to say that, but
¿Tú crees que estas pandillas son Tren de Agua, son venezolanos o de dónde son?
Son venezolanos porque hasta a mí misma me han dicho que nosotros no podemos mandar aquí en los apartamentos, que son ellos los que mandan en los apartamentos.
So she's from Guatemala and she says, yeah, absolutely, they're Venezuelan. They come and they say like, no, we are in control here.
Wow. Do they have to pay rent to them as well?
¿Les tenéis que pagar dinero?
Sí, a veces a mí me piden dinero, pero yo no se los pago porque yo sé ganar mi dinero y apenas me alcanza a mí para mis hijos, entonces yo a veces no les doy, pero se molestan, empiezan a decir cosas y todo eso.
She says, yeah, they ask for money. I don't give it. They do bother. And yeah, they are demanding money.
Does she feel safe here?
¿Te sientes segura aquí?
Pues no tanto, pero ya aplicamos en otros apartamentos y ya solo estamos esperando que nos entreguen eso para ir allá.
Sort of, not really. We applied to go to other apartments, so we're waiting on that answer.
Are you? Did she come here legally?
¿Viniste aquí legalmente?
Yo me entregué por migración con mis hijos.
No.
So those were tenants that are living in Whispering Pines. Guatemalan, very young, probably in their 20s. And what you can hear from them is that Danielle Jurinsky's narrative is absolutely right. That the Venezuelan gangs have shown up the last few months. They're intimidating the residents. It's scary for them. They want to move. She had young children with her. It was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And Jared Polis, the idea that this is somehow a feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination, get off your ass and go down. Sorry, I get so angry. Go down there and talk to these women facing this, and then come back here and tell me that this is some feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination. All right.
Yeah, deep breath.
Hear from corporate about that.
I think we should. It'll be good because this is very frustrating because it is a real world problem. And we have a lot of people that are experiencing this and being victimized. And it is incredibly frustrating when it appears that those in charge, and we can wrap in Jared Polis, Mike Johnston, and Mike Kaufman in on this one, that the people in charge seem to be ignoring it. The people in charge seem to be closing their eyes and ears and saying, no, it's you people on the radio, you people on these TV shows that are making this a big issue. You're the ones, you're doing this. And they just, no, we're talking about something that is happening and we're asking why something isn't being done about it. It's not about causation. It's about how are we changing this? How are we going to make this better? And appreciate there was a caller off the air that said she wanted more of a focus and more of a question on what's happening as far as Mike Kaufman and Aurora. And I appreciate that sentiment. I throw a lot of rocks at Mike Johnston because this is his program that moved these immigrants into Aurora. But it is also the responsibility of Mike Kaufman and the Aurora PD and everybody else, to take care of it. And another person that texted off the air reminded us that John Fabbricatore is just joining us in the studio, along with Congressman Chip Roy here in a second, reminded us it was John Fabbricatore that first outlined how TDA had been given orders to shoot the police officers. And that's another thing when you were talking about those cars that were circling you around the block and watching you.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons they were there, is they wanted to see if there was a badge. Because if there was a badge, they were going to probably try to take care of you one way or another, because those were the orders they had been given, because they wanted to create chaos, but also intimidation. They want to own that area. It's how they function. They already have pushed the EMTs out of that zone.
Right.
Now they want to push away law enforcement.
Yep.
So part of the reason you guys were surveilled is they were looking for badges. They wanted to see if you guys were there as media or if there was badges. And if they thought there were badges, it would have gone very differently.
Here's Kristen. Kristen's a black woman, lives across the street. I'm here with Kristen. And Kristen, we're outside Whispering Pines. There was a big report that came out yesterday about Whispering Pines saying that just a lot of gang activity coming around here. In fact, Venezuelan gangs even taking over and charging people rent and intimidating, and drug activity and prostitution taking place. So we thought we'd come down and just talk to people and see if that's their experience living around here. What's your experience living here?
I think that's exactly what's happening. A lot of people try to stay indoors, but when it comes to nighttime, everybody, it's a lot of stuff going on around here.
What kind of stuff do you see?
Just the gang activity, like with the the gunshots, the guns. Yeah, pretty much that's it.
Do you feel unsafe living over here?
Sort of, yeah.
Do you have children or family with you?
Yes, I have a daughter. Yeah, she's 11.
And how do you protect her from all this?
I keep her inside. Yeah.
Bill, I
Jeez,
have
inside.
I have an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it as a family, what we saw down there yesterday.
That's interesting,
And the idea that my 11-year-old would have to spend his life inside.
Yeah.
Think about your childhood.
Oh, yeah. And the idea is spending it inside, not in a, let's just say, a 1,200 square foot small house, not inside a 1,500 square foot house, inside probably an apartment that's 800, 900 feet or less. And the issue is the apartment living. That's the thing is, imagine the danger that mother feels getting their child to and from school.
Right.
Imagine the danger she feels just going to the grocery store. If she feels it's not safe enough to let her child play outside, and we're talking on the balcony, we're not talking just outside in the street. She doesn't want the possibility of anything happening. So how do you go to the grocery store with your child in that neighborhood and then bring your groceries home and figure this is how the best thing that we're going to do? And what does your child feel? And if you don't want to expose your child to this, then you're leaving him at home. And then imagine a parent figuring out that this is the situation that your child is living in. What's the choice you make? And not even talking about going out to go to movies or going to McDonald's and having a treat, because all of that is constrained based on the circumstances that are in there. And so imagine what the child is thinking, that those four walls inside their room, that's their existence.
That is their existence.
And that is awful.
I had a hard time yesterday after all this.
Oh, I bet.
Because you listen to that and you go, my challenge in the afternoon is getting my kids to their stuff on time.
Yeah. And for them to do their homework.
and making sure their homework's done and all that stuff. And
the typical parent stuff.
When I say that there are Coloradans living in a third world country, 5-10 miles from this studio, that is what I'm talking about. It is exactly true. It is their experience, and it is in part due to bad landlords. Not going to dismiss that.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely,
the idea that this is some right-wing concoction is a lie from the pit of hell. There are people suffering, and our community leaders need to be doing better. And thank God that Danielle Jurinsky and John Fabbricatore had the spine to continue to press this forward with the amount of pushback they received from a lot of media.
Oh, yeah.
I can say for a fact that they really care about the people of this community.
Oh, absolutely. And think about this as they were the two that stepped up to say this is a problem.
100%.
And they were looking for the solutions. They said this is going to be a danger. These are going to be the solutions. And sorry, but
where's Jason Crow?
Yeah, when you're looking at a lawmaker, don't you want them to be first and foremost concerned about their community they're representing?
Yes.
That's the issue.
Not political narratives.
Well, not about the idea that I'm going to go investigate what happened with the Trump assassination, that I'm going to sit on the head of that committee. That's where Crow's focus is at this point, rather than the focus of people that are here. We heard earlier from one of the people you were talking to, Jose, he talked about someone dying on the street outside the apartment complex. And Jason Crow's focused on the Beltway, not what's happening inside his district. And he's not focused on what is happening to his constituents. He's not focused on the people that are on the street bleeding out while we're trying to get EMTs because the EMTs can't go in there. That's not the focus. The focus is a performative thing that he has to sit in a committee and talk about his investigation. It's, what's he doing?
Right, exactly. Bill, great analysis. Look, we have them live in studio. They're going to be next. Chip Roy is here. Congressman from Texas, 21st District, and John Fabbricatore, candidate for Colorado Congressional District 6. The conversation continues. There's no hotter show in Colorado right now. Stick with us. Look, pain from arthritis is just awful. Bone on bone, constant pain. It robs you of so much of the stuff you love to do. But there are effective ways to deal with that pain. And I'm not talking about drugs or surgery. There are exciting new cellular therapies that can get you lasting relief. And the place to go, QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics uses cutting-edge treatments to accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. Look, if you're living with that chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know that steroids and surgery and pain pills are no longer your only option. I had a family member get knee replacement surgery. It's going to take them 3 months just to get to 80%. Why go through all that? Try this alternative. Learn how QC Kinetics can use advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. The local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are ready to help you get your life back with regenerative, restorative cellular treatments for your achy joints. This is the future of medicine. Call for your free consultation now, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986 with locations in Aurora, Superior, Colorado Springs, and Highlands Ranch. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. Works better when you push the button.
The Avengers team is here on the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us live in studio, Congressman Chip Roy and soon-to-be Congressman John Fabbricatore. Now, you, Chip, you're in town to help these guys, right? Lauren Boebert and John?
Yeah, well, I really just wanted to come here for the weather. Let's just be honest. It's just a sideshow, this political thing. But no, great to be here.
It's definitely better weather than what Texas is.
I hopped on a plane as soon as I knew I could come up here and help John in his important race and make sure the truth of what's happening in Aurora gets known to the entire country. Everybody needs to know what's happening here. And so I was happy to come up here.
Now, John, this is in your wheelhouse. Former regional ICE director. This district that Jason Crow currently operates in, that Jason is totally MIA in on this issue, is experiencing Venezuelan gang violence. And if you missed the previous segment, the idea that there's no gang violence here is nuts. There is a palpable tension, intimidation taking place to the residents of Congressional District 6, and Jason Crow is at a cocktail party in Washington, D.C.
It's actually even worse than that. So last night, I get an email because I'm following, some of the stuff that Jason puts out, and I find out that he's fundraising off of Lauren helping me last night and the rally that we had. And he says that Lauren and he mentions Lauren, doesn't mention me. He says Lauren and my opponent are conspiracy theorists raising this issue that's a conspiracy, and you need to help me fundraise so I can stop these right-wing conspiracy theorists. And I'm reading this, and here we're seeing all these videos, and you're going down there and
the
witnessing
audio
it for
we
yourself.
just played. Jason, there's a woman named Kristen who will not let her 11-year-old daughter leave the house because of this gang intimidation. Is that some conspiracy theory, Jason Crow?
Well, he thinks it is, and he's trying to fundraise off of it, and it was sickening. It made me sick to my stomach. He's absent here about what's going on. He hasn't been here in Colorado. He doesn't have his finger on the pulse. He's more concerned with trying to raise money for this race. And you know what? I'm glad. The one thing I'm glad about is that he's feeling pressure from us, and he thinks he's got to fundraise off this. But he needs to be serious. He's unserious right now, and he needs to come out and he really needs to say what's going on. But he won't. He'll align with the governor, and he'll take his marching orders.
So just joining us in studio, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, current Congresswoman of Congressional District 3, and soon to be Congresswoman of Congressional District 4. Here's what I learned yesterday. Chip Roy and Lauren Boebert, you all work in Congress. We have an immigration policy right now. And people may say, well, we don't. People are just loud. Here's the policy that I learned talking to Venezuelans that have come to this country. That if you are a Venezuelan woman, you can travel across 7 countries, being raped the entire time to get up to this country, and we will allow you to come in. We will put you into the shadows of this country. The woman I talked to, Maria, feels like she's been lied to, that there's opportunity in this country anymore. And what we often think about is like the policy from our perspective as Americans. There is a policy that has been communicated from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the people of Venezuela that you can go through all of that and then be left alone in this country and put into the shadows. It is a horrible policy to a human being.
Yes.
The way that they have treated this. By having an open border policy, you have created this, and there is tremendous human suffering taking place here.
Yes. Well, Chip and I have even seen the empty packages of the Plan B pill because women are traveling with them because they're expecting to be raped, expecting to be assaulted. And they have that as their precautionary safety measure. But no, it's absolutely disgusting. These wide open border policies are inhumane. They are dangerous, not only for the people who are traveling here, but also for American citizens. And if we're having Venezuelans say that they were lied to and there's no opportunity here, well, what about Americans that are losing opportunity each and every day, that their tax dollars are going to fund this invasion? And then, just like you said, we have representation here in Colorado, like Jason Crow, who's completely silent on the issue and would rather say that this is a conspiracy and a lie and continue to gaslight Coloradans and tell them that this is not happening and raise money off of it. How disgusting and foul is that? But we are here to expose what is really happening, to get the truth out there. I'm so proud of Danielle Jurinsky and her bold stance, because without her and John Fabbricatore raising awareness to this, actually getting families out of these apartment complexes, then we wouldn't be here. We would be stuck in that bubble of, well, maybe this isn't really happening. But these are people who are involved in it on a daily basis and are actively engaged in rectifying this situation.
Chip?
Yeah, I mean, look, I could fill an entire hour on this if you want to go down the road. But yesterday, my office released a report entitled "Border Invasion." It's available at roy.house.gov. Go look at my social media. But the reason I put that out is 37 pages, because all of this stuff is all over the place in the news. But the American people, particularly people here in Denver, who aren't living it every single day on the southern border, but now you're living it, right? You're living it. What we're seeing happening in Aurora. We always think a tagline like, well, the border issue is now an issue in all 50 states. Like all 50 states are a border state. But now it's just actually going into our communities, or we're seeing what's happening with the release of fentanyl and everything else. We have had this administration release 5.5 million people into the United States, 2 million gotaways. Almost 100,000 people died last year from opioids, 75,000 for fentanyl poisoning. 6 kids in the school district that my family live in, southwest of Austin, Texas, died from fentanyl poisoning. A dozen others had to be resuscitated with Narcan. It is all over the place. 320,000 children, according to the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security, have been misplaced. Now, some of those are safe. They're in some home, but we just don't know where the hell they are. Some of them are not safe. They're in stash houses. We saw the report just 2 days ago of the stash houses in New Mexico. We know what's happening right now. The ICE removals have been cut in half or more. John can speak to it more than I can because of his great service with ICE. We first met each other when I came here to Aurora to visit my in-laws, who live just across the park from here, by the way. And I was here when that flag got hoisted up the pole upside down, and the Mexican flag got hoisted up the pole. And so I called Tom Homan, and he hooked me up with John, and I came out and visited the facility and was here to try to shine a light on what was happening. That was 5 years ago. Now we've done nothing but allow and appease the Biden-Harris administration to do what they're doing. And everybody listening to this, you need to know your way of life is under assault. It's purposeful. They're releasing people into the United States for their political gain. They're using migrants as basically their crass political pawns, endangering them and endangering you.
Chip Roy from Texas. I mean, this is what this has created. Maria, Venezuelan, raped through 7 countries, gets to this country and feels like she has been lied to. She would have been better off. I can tell you this. She would have been better off if she knew that the border was closed and that there was a process she must follow from Venezuela. She as a human being, as an immigrant, would have been better off. They have created a system that has brought all this pain. Bill?
Didn't she also leave her children behind?
She left 3 children behind.
Yes, and that's the issue, is she left 3 children behind, and she crossed 7 countries and a jungle looking for a better life that had been promised her by the current administration. Right. And when you listen to what Maria is saying, what you hear from her is, I went through all this and nothing got better.
Tears.
That's the thing that resonates.
Tears in her eyes.
Yes, that everything she went through, and she talked about the idea, and you brought it up, raped along the way over and over. Not just once, the assaults continued to happen because she was an easy target. She was going to endure this to get a better life somehow for her family. That's why she made those sacrifices, and now she's here. And her feeling is, it's the same. I could have experienced this staying home, and at least there I'd be with my kids.
That's right.
Not here.
That's right. And to Chip Roy's point, This is attacking the American way of life. It is just patently wrong as policy. We're going to continue this conversation. Look, this is heartbreaking, but we've got to address these issues. This is not a feature of some right-wing imagination. We went down and talked to the people, and Chip Roy, Lauren Boebert, John Fabbricatore with us live in studio to help protect the American people and other human beings that are just facing the consequences of a horrible policy implemented by Harris and Biden. I got to make the transition here to Mile High Appliance.
Oh, that's a rough one, my
Look,
friend.
they have cooked up some tasty deals for your kitchen. Now, for a limited time, receive up to a $3,000 rebate with the purchase of qualifying GE Cafe appliances. Enjoy the Mountain High Appliance price match guarantee and special financing options. Visit one of their 4 locations for all the details and upgrade your kitchen with GE Cafe Appliances in Denver, East 64th, Littleton, Louisville, Glenwood Springs, and Mountain High Appliance. Experience the difference. Our conversation with Chip Roy, Lauren Boebert, and John Fabbricatore continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, live in studio. Lauren Boebert, Chip Roy, John Fabbricatore. We're all hanging out on a Friday morning. It's awesome, man. We're like the cool kids table, Billy. All right, John, you got a text message last night.
Yeah, so about 12:43 last night, I received a text message from one of the residents that lives across the street from some of the apartments that we've been spotlighting. And, it was a very frantic text. He was very, very frightened, very scared. There was a lot of yelling and screaming coming from the apartment complexes. He had moved in with his mother a couple of months ago. His mother's in her late 80s. They've owned that home since 1968. They've seen a lot of changes in that area. And after speaking with them about a week ago, they relayed to me how much things have changed and how bad it's gotten. So, he sends me this text last night, and he's just very frantic and frightened about what's going on. And I told him, hey, let's call the police. Let's get the police call down there. Please let me know what happens. Let me know what 911 says to you. Let me know when the police get there. He did text me back. He did say the police did finally show up. It took them a little while to get there. And when the police got there, there was a lot of yelling and screaming between the police and the migrants that were across the street. He said he was still frightened. He had seen them earlier moving guns into their cars, so he was worried about that. This is the situation that these residents are dealing with every single night. Most people go to these apartment complexes during the day, and maybe they'll see a little thing here and there, but it's the nighttime. It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
And people we talked to said gunshots almost every day, at least weekly. We're continuing this conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. was a great opening to welcome Chip Roy and a little country music. Our friend from Texas.
Yeah. We got a little, this guy's a little Merle. Nice.
That's
Good.
Actual country music,
Yes.
you know, not that
That's
poppy
what
stuff.
That's what I was double checking. Like, I'm from Texas, and I get a little. Wait, what kind of country are you talking about? We like our good Texas red dirt country, and I represent Lukenbach, so we have a lot of events out there, and Green Hall, a bunch of the old dance halls, and so we're a little picky about our music in Texas.
You getting a bunch of California libs moving to Texas?
We do. And now look, some people self-select who move there who are seeking freedom. They're basically, refugees from California, and that's great. We love those folks. Texas has a long history of that, but there's a lot of people who move there or get moved there by their companies, and they come in with their, nonsense from the states they left. And, but the real big problem we have is our education system. Like, we're losing our own Texas kids because we've allowed them to be indoctrinated now for so long and be taught that America's evil, to be taught that somehow that you should apologize for being American, that Texas, you should apologize for being a Texan. So we're having to reverse that. We're having a big fight about school choice in Texas. I went to public school, K through law school, but my wife and I, and so did she, we sent our kids to a classical Christian school because we want them to be, pray and acknowledge that God exists.
Right. I've raised this over and over again. I didn't even think we were going to have a conversation about education, but I'm so passionate about it. The idea that we're going to somehow teach kids about truth without acknowledging there is truth.
Right. And by the way, it is truth, not my truth, not your truth. It's truth.
That's right. I think we should just buy I've always wanted this, a giant billboard right off of I-25. There's no website. No, it just says, for the love of God, get your children out of government-run schools.
That's right. You should call them that. They're government-run. They're not public schools.
Yes.
Look, I was blessed. I went to the University of Virginia, Thomas Jefferson, and he was one of the big promoters of the public diffusion of knowledge. It's important for a republic, but how you do it matters. And the 100%. Government bureaucrats running it and doing it, they're actually indoctrinating kids against our way of life and hurting the republic.
We are giving a preview of what the next hour is going to be looking like. I love this. Lauren Boebert, Chip Roy, John Fabbricatore, live in studio. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show on this Friday, September 6th. Coming up after the news and commentary of Blake Olson, we'll continue this conversation about what's happening here in Aurora, the SAFE Act, all of this stuff that's going on with regards to illegal immigration in this country. And it's not only harming this country, it's harming the people that are trying to get here as well. I know there's this bleeding heart progressivism that we just want to bring everybody in here. But the way we're doing it is really hurting people. And I talked directly to them, particularly Maria, yesterday down at Whispering Pines apartment complex. But first, news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. What a show. Man, this has been great. 57 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
In the community, police coming every day. The shooters, somebody died twice. I think somebody died over here. So that's why the police is very alert.
Great work by Jeff and our gang. Yes, there is a Venezuelan gang problem in Aurora. All those who denied this fact have egg on their face again. And a profound interview with Jose and others in the Aurora neighborhood.
And they're going to move everybody from here. Whatever happens, Mr. Maduro, the president of Venezuela, he takes the guys from the jail and they send it to him with $300 in the pocket. Wow. That's what Mr. Trump, he say, they're coming criminals and, they come from jail. That's why Mr. Trump, he's okay. One thing, Mr. Trump, I mean, I don't like Mr. Trump, but he was right when the thing where he say they're coming from jail, they're coming from criminals, coming from America, and they want to clean the stuff.
So once again, we hear this all the time. I do. I don't like Trump, but he was right when he said that they're not sending their best. They're sending criminals, bad people, including gangs and murderers. And he said that almost 9 years ago now. Open freaking borders, sanctuary cities. The left is trying to destroy our country, our cities, towns, communities. You get what you vote for. Representative Chip Roy, the great from Texas in studio last hour, and right now in studio with Lauren Boebert and John Fabbricatore. All three know that we have a crisis at the border and in our cities like Aurora.
And I was here when that flag got hoisted up the pole upside down, and the Mexican flag got hoisted up the pole. And so I called Tom Homan, and he hooked me up with John, and I came out and visited the facility and was here to try to, shine a light on what was happening. That was 5 years ago. Now we've done nothing but allow and appease the Biden-Harris administration to do what they're doing. And everybody listening to this, you need to know your way of life is under assault. It's purposeful. They're releasing people into the United States for their political gain. They're using migrants as basically their crass political pawns, endangering them and endangering you.
Former President Trump, speaking to the New York Economic Club last night, talked about the issues, all the issues, including illegal immigration and employment.
Over 500,000 fewer people have full-time jobs today than just 1 year ago, and 100% of the net job creation in the past year has gone to illegal migrants. Think of that. 100% of the jobs created under this administration has gone to illegal migrants that came into our country.
Every single mental health professional that reviewed this guy for sanity found him to be sane. And he said it twice. And what that told me right then and there is the defense could not find somebody to say that their client was sane. And that's amazing.
The great George Brauchler on his old show with Jeff and Bill this morning. Awesome expert analysis of the Boulder King Soopers mass shooting trial, which is underway also. Amadeus is accused of killing 10 people inside the store 3 years ago. He's pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. George says DA Michael Dougherty uncovered some crucial information.
The number, nature, and kind of wounds that they have tell you that this guy acted with intent. And that's important because when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're eating that you engaged in the conduct. You're admitting that, right? But in Colorado, which has the highest, toughest standard for insanity on prosecutors in America, the prosecutor now has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt two whole things. One is that you could form the intent to murder after deliberating, and that two, you knew right from wrong. If you can't prove both those beyond a reasonable doubt, dude's going to be sent to a state mental hospital instead of prison. That's just going to happen.
George also said that the DA said that for the first time, Alyssa researched bomb-making materials, guns, previous mass shootings, and how to clear a hallway without being shot. The trial will last 3 weeks. The 14-year-old being charged with 4 counts of felony murder following Wednesday's school shooting in Georgia will make his first court appearance this morning. He's accused of shooting over a dozen people at Appalachia High School. His father is facing multiple charges for knowingly allowing his son to have access to a weapon. All right, down by 7, time expires. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens unable to tie it with the Chiefs last night as the NFL kicks off. We have college football tomorrow, some big games. UNC at CSU. Air Force takes on San Jose State, Idaho at Wyoming, and of course CU and Nebraska. 55 in Littleton, 53 in Lafayette, 57 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue in the studio with all the stars. TGIF, Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Beautiful September weather for Denver in the Front Range. Enjoy. Days will be warm and sunny with low humidity. The nights will be clear, getting a little cooler. You can crack that window open at night. We're looking at low to mid 80s today, middle to upper 80s Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Nights will mostly stay in the 50s. Chances of rain will be just a few isolated thunderstorms near the mountains. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us live in studio, Congressman Chip Roy, Congresswoman. We know the difference here at 710 KNUS. Lauren Boebert, and then soon to be Congressman John Fabbricatore. John, you said that Jason Crow made a statement to the Sentinel last night.
He finally made a statement to somebody, so he chooses the Sentinel. And he said in a phone interview to the Sentinel last Thursday night, he said he was countering the narrative by Congresswoman Boebert and others. And he said, there is no gang takeover of Aurora, Colorado, and no evidence of gang takeovers of apartment complexes in the city. That was directly from Jason. He says, what is relevant here is that you have people living in squalid conditions. And he says later on, we are misrepresenting and distorting the facts for political purposes, from Jason Crow.
Okay, so that's Jason Crow, Democrat congressman from the district that represents Aurora. I went down and I spoke with the people that live in these apartment complexes. Here's Jose. So what's your first name?
Jose.
Yeah. Do you live around here?
Across the street. But we noticed we have a lot of problems over here. And thank you. Okay. In the community, police coming every day. Shooters. Somebody died twice. I think somebody died over here. So that's why the police is very alert, and they're gonna move everybody from here. That's what it is.
Yeah. We've heard there's reports of a lot of gang activity in this community. Venezuelan gang activity.
Yeah, Venezuela guys, whatever happened is Mr. Maduro, the president of Venezuela, he take the guys from the jail and they send it to him with $300 in the pocket. That's what they do.
Wow. You said Maduro sent the guys from jail in Venezuela, gave them $300.
Come to America. Wow. That's what Mr. Trump, he say they're coming criminals and they come from jail. That's why Mr. Trump, he's okay. One thing, Mr. Trump, I mean, I don't like Mr. Trump, but he was right when the thing where he say they're coming from jail, they're coming from criminals, coming from America, and they want to clean the stuff.
Wow. Where are you from?
I'm from Mexico City.
From Mexico City? Okay. Over the last few months, has the gang violence gotten worse here?
Big time. Like 3 months ago, somebody died over here because they're shooting the guy, and the police coming almost every day over here.
So how out of touch does Jason Crow have? I mean, guys, I know I'm among a bunch of politicians. I know with politicians, you expect them sometimes to not always tell them. But come on, Jason Crow. Here's Jose saying gang activity is getting a lot worse.
It's incredible. I mean, you can listen to this and look, that interview that you just aired is incredible. It's incredible. This is from a migrant telling you that, yes, this is happening. He knows that these criminals are entering the United States. From somebody, he's like, Mr. Trump, he's okay. I don't like him that much, but come on,
but he's right.
Come on. We're listening to this in real time, and Jason Crow is out there saying, "Oh, it's a figment of our imagination, and this is right-wing conspiracy theories." Yeah.
Right, and they are being sent here from the jails in these countries, from Venezuela. So the crime rate is actually down in Venezuela, and it's increasing here because all their prisoners are here in America. And for Jason Crow to say that there's no evidence of this, and this is just due to like poverty or poor living conditions is absolutely false.
Crazy.
There was a nonpartisan law firm that did an investigation, and in November of 23 that they discovered that a consultant was beaten so badly he had to be taken to the hospital, that another person was stabbed by these gang members. There were threats to kill some of the residents in these apartments for not paying the property manager. There were threats to kill a housekeeper for not giving the keys to a vacant apartment. And then they were saying, quote, they host parties for drug service and prostitution. That's a stash house, so maybe these gang members aren't living there, but they're absolutely extorting people, and they are using these facilities for their criminal activities.
And Lauren, I asked Jose that exact question. Is this happening? Here's Jose continuing. How long have you lived here?
I'm America, 40 years old.
40. You've been up here 40 years. How long have you lived over there?
Like 2 years.
So you've seen a lot of activity in those 2 years.
It's bad stuff. I have my knife every night when I walking over here.
Really?
I'm scared about this place.
Now, Mayor Mike Kaufman, he's a friend of mine. I know Mayor Mike. What's your message to Mayor Mike? What could I tell Mayor Mike to do?
Well, try to fix this stuff, try to bring more security over here because these places is a mess. That's what I try to say.
I get that sense. There's a lot of cars going by very slow. It seems like a lot of activity right here.
No, it's coming very fast, and that's the way the Venezuelans coming. They don't respect the traffic stuff. They don't respect the people. They don't care about the people.
One of the reports that was written was that there's drug activity and prostitution, child prostitution happening here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really? You think child prostitution?
Yes, I do. I can see that. I do.
Wow.
I don't want to say nothing, but they do a lot of drugs over here and prostitution too. A lot of females, and they sell the body for money.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you taking time to speak with us. Thank you very much. John?
You this is Aurora, Colorado. This should not be happening in our city right now. And we've heard it over and over, especially in the last few weeks, that this is happening. You've gone down there. Other journalists have gone down there. We've gotten pictures. We've gotten video. And yet we still, right now, have a sitting congressman saying it's not happening. How much more disgusted could I be right now in that messaging from him when residents in this area are telling you in your district that this is going on and you want to play stupid politics about it and deny it?
If I could jump in here real quick.
Chip Roy.
So John has devoted his life to serving his country, and in particularly most recently working for ICE. So you know where he stands on it. But let's just make sure that everybody out there understands where Jason Crow stands on all of this. Jason Crow voted against H.R. 2, the strongest border security bill that we've ever passed. Lauren and I worked very hard on getting that bill passed with conservatives, and it would work. He voted against it, and he didn't just vote against it. He put out a statement trashing it, and he called it the, quote, Child Deportation Act. He is a part of the propaganda machine that is endangering you, Aurora, and Denver. He is doing that. He is doing it for crass political purposes. Let's be very clear. He also opposed the 2 times the votes we had on impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas for violating the law, refusing to enforce the laws to protect the American people and endangering us. He opposed an amendment on a Department of Homeland Security appropriations bill because we fought for the amendments, Lauren and I did, to defund what is called CHNV. What does the V stand for? Venezuela. That would have prohibited the funds that are allowing more of these people from Venezuela to be dumped into the United States, including the criminals that Jose just referenced. Jason Crow voted against that. He's voted against every single thing, including, finally, the SAVE Act, the bill that I introduced in July to guarantee that we will check citizenship for any election, to guarantee that only American citizens vote in federal elections in this country. He opposed it. He's opposed it at every turn. That's why we need John to join me and Lauren in Congress. And look, this isn't just about some political campaign. This is who they are.
Yes.
This is who Kamala Harris is. And you are being endangered. Look, we've been dealing with this in Texas on the front lines for forever. Kinney County, Texas. I don't represent it, but it's just out of my district. Kinney County, Texas had 150 arrests in 2021. They've had 15,000 arrests since then. They have one county judge, they have one county sheriff, and they have one small jail, and they've had 15,000 arrests because of the crime. We are spending billions. Denver itself, taxpayers alone have paid $42 million to cover the healthcare and education costs of illegal aliens from December 2022 to present, according to a report that my team released yesterday. It's probably worse than that. We have to beg to try to get numbers. It is killing you. You're paying for it, and your city is weaker and more endangered for it.
And people, human beings are suffering.
Amen.
I mean,
Americans
really
and
are.
migrants.
That's right.
Yeah.
This whole thing, the whole system is bad. This would be better, and we talked about it, for Maria if a Venezuelan illegal immigrant, by the way, just about everybody I talked to up there is illegal. It would have been better for her to stay in Venezuela with her children instead of being raped across 7 countries before she got here. The whole system, it doesn't even help the migrants.
Lauren, of course, John lived it working for ICE. Lauren and I have been to the border so many times. I go there all the time. These are real human beings.
Yes.
These are children. They're being abused.
Yes.
We had a woman and her daughter who were being held in a stash house in Fort Worth, Texas. My friend, a federal judge, had to upward depart on the guidelines when they finally caught the guys that were holding them, abusing them in all ways that I'm not going to talk about here on air. Then they were abusing this mom and daughter and holding ransom over the head of another illegal alien who was in Baltimore, the dad, the husband, for $25,000 after he thought he had paid his $1,000 and be able to come, quote, live the American dream. The American dream isn't getting raped in a stash house so Jason Crow can feel good about himself or Kamala Harris can pat themselves on the back in the false name of compassion that somehow open borders are good for migrants or America. It's not.
Wow. Chip Roy. Now, part of all of this in the equation is what the heck happened to Venezuela. This is what happens when socialism gets rooted into a country. Because, I mean, remind people, Venezuela wasn't always like this.
No.
It was actually an incredibly wealthy, successful country. And it's had 7 million people flee it. That's the thing I think I saw.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, Venezuela was a thriving country. It was a strong country built on the back of oil and gas. We had great relationships with them. And then it went to the dark side. It went to not just socialism, but this is Marxism, totalitarian state. And so, of course, some people were fleeing because it became, a bit of a hellhole. But there's something called safe third countries. There's also something about our diplomacy or making sure we stand up to fight against that stuff. We've been forsaking it. We could have a whole segment on how America has been forsaking the Western Hemisphere. We've allowed China to dominate it. We've allowed our enemies to dominate it. We are not projecting strength into the Western Hemisphere. Now China owns all of the relationships with the cartels in Mexico, pumping fentanyl into our communities. They're doing it on purpose. We're undermining the safety and security of the people of South America and Central America. And while they're emptying their prisons and sending some bad guys here, a lot of good folks are fleeing too, which leaves their countries in a worse state. One of the first ladies, I think, of Honduras came to America and said, would you please secure the border because you're harming our countries in the process?
That's exactly right. I mean, even Mexico at this point is like, well, we can put you on a bus and drive you up there because we don't want you coming through our country either. It's like only the idea that it's intolerant to have a border only happens in America. No other country thinks that way, and it's this progressive mindset in America. Well, I want to get to the SAVE Act next because this is really important because one of the responses that we've often heard is, well, we already have guidelines in place. Illegals can't vote in this country. Why do we need the SAVE Act?
Well, and I don't want to monopolize the time here. I mean,
You're our guest.
Well, we're here and it's great, but Lauren and I've been working on this issue and all the other issues together. Getting HR2 passed was really extraordinarily important. And look, I'd like to make HR2 the central part of a fight right now.
Yeah.
We had that fight last year. We know we're not going to get it across the finish line. So what we set out to do in the spring was do the SAVE Act. And so I worked on that with a lot of folks. It happens to be my bill, but it was a bill I worked on with Stephen Miller from the Trump administration and with a lot of smart lawyers, Cleta Mitchell and others that understand the law. And so here's the response. Yes, under the law currently, non-citizens are prohibited from voting in federal election. That is true. But what is also equally true is that federal courts have interpreted the law to limit and restrict and prohibit states from collecting the information you need to determine citizenship and determine that only citizens are voting. Right. So take Arizona, for example. Arizona passed a law that said only citizens can vote, and we're going to check. We're going to have you present documentary proof of citizenship. The court said you can't do that for federal elections. So Arizona has 2 different systems, one for state and local, one for federal. Because they check for citizenship for state and local, they don't for federal because they're prohibited. This bill would change that. It would fix it and go one step further. It would require it for federal elections for all 50 states. Why? Because San Francisco, Oakland, DC, New York, countless jurisdictions, probably some knuckleheads here. I promise you the knuckleheads of the Austin City Council, they want non-citizens to vote. Mm-hmm. They're doing it. They're passing laws to make it happen. And then they go, oh, don't worry. That's just for our state and local elections. Well, that's bad enough. But for federalism, the Constitution, we have to respect the stupidity of these local jurisdictions. But you don't for federal elections. We have a say in that. So this law would change that. It would require documentary proof of citizenship. We give lots of ways to make sure it's not an encumbrance on our great, citizens. If you're a veteran and you've been registered your whole life and you show up, we don't want you to not be able to vote. So we have lots of ways to be able to do it. But ultimately, we put forth the systems in place to clean the rolls, check the data, make sure only citizens vote. 80+% of Americans support it. Only 5 Democrats voted for the bill in July. So we're hoping to attach it to the spending bill in September and have a fight this fall and make this a central issue because it marries election integrity with wide open borders, and Democrats want to exploit both for their benefit, not the benefit of the American people.
Congresswoman.
And Jeff, if you remember, we had a ballot initiative here in Colorado. I believe it was in 2020 during that election. We fought to get that language on the ballot saying that only United States citizens can vote in Colorado elections, but that failed when we brought that to the voters. Maybe it was because we had non-citizens voting in those elections, but that measure failed. So we tried to secure our state and local elections and say you have to prove that you are a United States citizen, and Colorado voted that down. And so now we are trying with the SAVE Act that Chip Roy has authored to make this so in federal elections. Democrats have already voted down the citizenship question on the census, and even in DC elections, we were saying, we have jurisdiction here and you have to be a United States citizen to vote in DC elections. Every Democrat voted against that. And so now this is our fight. If you want to fund the federal government, well, we want to secure our elections.
When I look at what Democrats are doing around these issues with open border, with fighting you all in the SAVE Act, I'm trying to put some level of reasoning to it. Is it they're motivated by, we think that we can bring in millions of people and America will just be able to absorb it and still maintain the country? Or
they don't want to maintain.
Do you think they want to fundamentally change America?
Exactly like they said. When they show you who they are, when they show you what they intend to do, believe them.
Yeah.
Barack Obama said he wanted to fundamentally change this country, and that's been the track that they've been on ever since. When they are allowing some 10 million illegal aliens to come into our country, flood our country, invade our country, overwhelm the system, and create chaos, it's because they want the system itself destroyed. They want to say that this doesn't work. This isn't a process that is effective. And so we have to do something completely and fundamentally different. They want a forever voting block. They do not like or respect our Constitution. Every now and then when it fits their narrative, they'll shake it around. But other than that, they're doing exactly like Nancy Pelosi and shredding it up. This is happening on a daily basis with so many policy issues. They want every system of our government to be overrun. Now, Chip and I, we would rather just defund the dang thing and get it right. Let's just stop your funding until we can improve on it.
Right.
But they want something completely different.
Wow. Talking with Chip Roy, Lauren Boebert, and soon-to-be Congressman John Fabbricatore. We'll continue this conversation. Look, if you're considering selling your home, go with the team that's not only going to give you top-level service, but will also help you earn more from the sale of your home than any other agent. Gay Ribble is proven to get more for her sellers because they have ready buyers looking for a home in your area. They don't just make this claim. They can sit down and actually show you a list of over 14,700 buyers. This gives you an immediate advantage. Sure, you can hire any agent to sell your home, and there's family members and neighbors and friends that all want that business, but isn't it all about how much you're going to put in your pocket after closing? This is a business transaction for your family. You need to get the most. Empower Home Team specializes in making sure you make the most amount of money. They will sell your home at your price, or Gay will buy it. Guaranteed. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and the Empower Home Team of Keller Williams. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD. Or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. We continue with all the cool congressmen hanging out in our studio. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Friday morning in the Mile High City, and you're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show as we talk all of the craziness happening in Aurora right now. My goodness. And get into the truth of it. So we went down yesterday to Whispering Pines, this apartment complex that's one of three that's in the news. And I mean, John, just I don't know if you have it pulled up again. Just what did Jason Crow say about what's happening down there?
So he said nothing's happening down there. So to him, this is all a right-wing conspiracy theory. I don't have it pulled up on my phone right now, but basically he said that he believes that Lauren Boebert is just pressing out right-wing conspiracies and, that no one should be listening to this. I mean, he basically said it was disgusting what Danielle Jurinsky and Congresswoman Boebert were saying about this, and which is incredible.
Right, and he said we want it just for clicks. If I want clicks, I'll just show another tattoo. I mean, I don't need to create some sort of controversy for clicks.
That works better for some more than others.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we go down yesterday, and I had a hard time. It took me all night to process what I saw, which is that there are people in our midst 10 miles from here that are living in third world conditions. And keep in mind what Jason Crow said about what Lauren Boebert, Danielle Jurinsky, and John Fabbricatore are doing. Here are two 20-year-old in their 20s women, little kids near them, from Guatemala. Hola, do you live here?
¿Sí vives aquí?
Sí.
And how long have you lived here?
¿Cuántos años o meses has vivido?
5 años.
5 years.
5 years. There's reports of violence and gang activity in this community. Have you seen violence and gang activity?
Hay reportes de violencia y bandas, pandillas, gangas aquí. ¿Tú has visto eso?
Sí.
Yes.
Has it gotten worse recently?
Ha empeorado.
Peor. Sí, ha empeorado muchísimo, muchísimo.
Yeah, it's gotten worse.
Is it report is it's Venezuelan gangs, TDA? I don't know how to say that, but.
¿Tú crees que estas pandillas son Tren de Agua, son venezolanos o de dónde son?
Son venezolanos porque hasta a mí misma me han dicho que nosotros no podemos mandar aquí en los apartamentos, que son ellos los que mandan en los apartamentos.
So she's from Guatemala and she says, yeah, absolutely. They're Venezuelan. They come and they say like, no, we are in control here.
Wow. Do they have to pay rent to them as well?
¿Les tenéis que pagar dinero?
Sí, a veces a mí me piden dinero, pero yo no se los pago porque yo sé ganar mi dinero y apenas me alcanza a mí para mis hijos. Entonces yo a veces no les doy, pero se molestan, empiezan a decir cosas y todo eso.
She says, yeah, they ask for money. I don't give it. They do bother. And yeah, they are demanding money.
Does she feel safe here?
¿Te sientes segura aquí?
Pues no tanto, pero ya aplicamos en otros apartamentos y ya solo estamos esperando que nos entreguen eso para ir allá.
Sort of, not really. We applied to go to other apartments, so we're waiting on that answer.
Are you? Did she come here legally?
¿Viniste aquí legalmente?
Yo me entregué por migración con mis hijos.
No.
Just about everybody I spoke to, at least in that particular apartment complex, was not here legally. It's just that's where they're putting them because Mike Johnston is running out of money for his plan. He initially, if you were one of the 40,000 illegal immigrants that came to the city of Denver, you got workforce training, you got lawyers, you got a debit card with money on it, and they gave you an apartment complex for 6 months, apartment room for 6 months, and it's been longer than 6 months. And so these people end up at these bad apartment complexes. And now we have never denied ever on this show that there isn't a landlord-tenant issue here because these are broken doors, broken windows. These are run down. There's no grass. There's trash everywhere. It looks like a third world country. And in part, I'm kind of like, yeah, if I was the landlord manager too, I wouldn't hang out there. It was incredibly dangerous. You could tell the gangs knew we were on their turf and they were trying to intimidate us. And I've been in some intimidate. I spent 4 days with Palestinian protesters outside the DNC. I felt safe the entire time. I did not feel safe here. And this is 10 miles from this studio in the district that you want to represent, John Fabbricatore. Now, Jason Crow sends out a text message. This is all magic. In fact, how dare you? How dare you, Lauren Boebert, try to take this suffering and lie about it to get clicks. When I just played audio from people living in Jason Crow's district that are actually suffering. And he plays it off as a political thing. John Fabbricatore, let's say you're the elected congressman for Congressional District 6 here, and you hear people suffering like that. What do you do?
It's boots on the street automatically. I mean, that's who I am. I'm an operational guy. Like that's been my life. You know, I've been on the law enforcement side of this, but I know how to get into a situation and deal with the situation. Jason's absent. He's absent to this. He's not boots on the ground. He's staying in D.C. And look, he's pushing a narrative that the Democrats want to push right now. And the people of Aurora should be offended by what he's saying. We know what's going on is the truth. Look, you can put all the politics you want into this, but video doesn't lie. These investigations that we're doing don't lie. We've got bipartisan investigations by a law firm showing us that there's child sex trafficking going on. And Jason wants to say that we're playing some right-wing conspiracy theory politics on this. It is absolutely disgusting what he is doing with this right now.
Now, part of the complication in all this is that there's different groups of people that don't really like each other, and that's important to recognize. So if you talk to the Mexicans, they don't like the Venezuelans. Talk to the Guatemalans, well, they don't like the Venezuelans. Talk to black people, they don't like the Venezuelans. But you talk to Venezuelans, they feel like they're being a little bit attacked on right now. They're like, look, we're not all bad people. We're not all gang members. One of the more compelling interviews we had was with Maria. She actually lives in the apartment complex at Whispering Pines. And she has some words to say about Maduro. And this goes back to a conversation we were having about what is these people are facing in these communist Marxist countries. What do you think of Maduro?
¿Qué piensas de Maduro?
Me vine por eso. Me vine por el gobierno. Trabajé para el gobierno. Hoy en día estoy en este país huyéndole al gobierno al que le trabajé. Y si algo le puedo decir es que lo que nosotros vivimos en nuestro país no es lo que vinimos a vivir en este. Y todos los que entramos a este país creemos y respetamos las leyes de este país. Y por eso estamos aquí. Si no, nos hubiésemos quedado en Venezuela.
I left because of Maduro. I used to work for the government, and now I'm fleeing from it. We left because of what he's done in the country, and like she kind of says, like, I assure you, like, we wouldn't be coming here if it was worse. We want to follow the laws of the U.S. and have a better life.
Do you feel safe here?
¿Te sientes segura aquí en este barrio?
Sí, yo aquí vivo tranquila. Me voy de este estado por las situaciones de xenofobia que se han presentado y sobre todo en contra de mi nacionalidad.
She says, yeah, I feel really safe. I'm leaving this state, though, because of the xenophobia and specifically against Venezuelans.
Hablo de xenofobia porque no hace mucho se metió un grupo de ciudadanos afroamericanos, los cuales rayaron todas nuestras instalaciones y nos amenazaron. Sus palabras son que son una ganga y que ellos son los que están a cargo de esta propiedad.
Ah, pero yo te pregunté si habían pandillas o no.
Ellos no son de aquí, no viven aquí, pero aquí vinieron hace como 10 días y las evidencias están retratadas en todos nuestros edificios.
Así que sí hay bandas, sí hay pandillas, pero no soy vosotros.
No, y esa pandilla llegó hace 10 días.
So she said, I'm leaving because there is a gang, and she specified it's African Americans, came by about 10 days ago, scratched up everything, destroyed a lot of stuff, said a bunch of like really dangerous things, and she's sick of it.
Wow. So black gang is what is intimidating her.
Yeah, so I clarified because I'd asked her before if there were gangs. She said no, but she said, I don't know. I think they alluded to, like, are they a gang? I don't know, but African-American group of people came by and threatened us.
So that was one of the things that I found interesting, John, is like, this is a complicated issue. This is not a simple issue. In addition to all this, you have people that are just making bad personal choices, people drinking, doing drugs at 10 in the morning. But this dynamic of Venezuelans feeling like they're ganged up on, The Guatemalans don't like them. The Mexicans don't like them. And then the Venezuelans go, no, it's not our fault. It's the black people's fault. You've worked as a regional director of ICE. How does all of that component fit into this?
Look, I've worked this area since, the late 90s. I was a young agent on the street working the Colfax corridor. And there have been gangs on the Colfax corridor forever. Anyone who's lived in Colorado, you stay away from Colfax at night.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. But, this part of the problem is you are forcing these other gangs into this situation where there's already pre-established gangs that we've been working for years. And that makes the situation even more dangerous because as one gang tries to gain territory, those other established gangs are going to push back. And we're going to continue to see more violence, and it's going to grow because as these new gangs start to set up some drug trafficking and other things that they're going to do, the other gangs are going to push back, and we're going to see a lot of violence.
Well, when we return, I want to ask about this roundtable you guys are putting together in Aurora today, and thank God. I really, seriously want to thank you, Chip, Lauren Boebert, John Fabbricatore, and Danielle Jurinsky for continuing to lead on this issue.
Hold on a second.
There's so much media out
I
there.
got a question in the back of the class. I've been kind of quiet.
Thor.
Yeah, I've been kind of
Bill's
quiet
still
this
here.
back then. Yeah, I've been very, very quiet. It's hard to find room in the dance card with you guys talking. And I just wanted to clarify for a second. Hang on a sec. So we are saying that Jason Crow, who's representing the district in which this is happening, is busy doing his Washington, D.C. stuff, while we have his opponent here. We have Congresswoman Boebert here. We have Congressman Roy here. We have people that are coming to Aurora to discuss the problem that is happening in Jason Crow's district, and he's not here.
I don't know, man. You cannot compete with those cocktail parties in Washington, D.C.
Well,
that is true. That is true.
And if I can just add, as the non-Coloradan, the one who came up here from Texas, like the goal here is to seek the truth wherever it may lead. Right.
Yeah,
that is an important part of this. You just raised some important issues and facts about Venezuelans who are here there because they want a better way of life. Honest people just trying to work. There's hundreds of thousands, millions of those, and the numbers that have come here, of course. And that's what the people like Jason Crow and Kamala Harris want to hide behind. But they ignore the damage being done to the country, the damage being done to those migrants. But then they want to sweep aside these facts. They would say, oh, no one's taken over an apartment building. As if what we specifically mean is like they've literally locked it down as like some sort of fortress with like 100 armed people like holding it in check. That's not what we mean. What we mean is you have people here who are beholden to gangs that are here because of these policies. You've got the 4 that were arrested that ICE is now confirmed were released in Eagle Pass, released in Texas. That's what's actually happening on the ground, and that's what we're going to talk about in this panel.
Fantastic. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us live in studio, Chip Roy, Congressman from Texas, Lauren Boebert, Congresswoman here in Colorado, and soon-to-be Congressman John Fabbricatore. You all got a roundtable today.
Yes, we do.
And what is it about?
Yes, so we are bringing together local officials. We've invited the governor. We've invited our senators, Hickenlooper and Bennett. We'll have Fabbricatore, Chip Roy. We'll have former ICE Director Tom Homan. We will have City Councilwoman at large Danielle Jurinsky. We will have the County Commissioner of Douglas County, who is joining us as well. Douglas County has put forward a lawsuit. Mesa County's joined in with that. El Paso County, and they are suing the state for their sanctuary policies that are allowing their Republican counties to suffer. These counties have agreed we are not allocating our funding towards the benefiting illegal aliens, to housing them, to their health care, all of these things, but the sanctuary policies still allow them to stay there. So we're going to have this
happening today, Aurora 12.
Yes, at noon.
I'm going to go to it. We'll be able to report to it, you on our social media. You can always follow it on x.com/Jeff Hunt. Thanks so much for bringing your friends, Lauren.
Chip Roy, John Fabbricatore. So great to be here with you, Jeff, and Bill.
Amazing.
Bill in the back.
Had a lot of fun today. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It is a beautiful Friday, September 6th, here in Denver, Colorado. We're about to kick off a whole nother hour that I need after this wild and crazy week. Jeff Hildebrandt is going to join us here. He is the 710 KNUS Cowboy poet. Man, I could use some of that right now. So he's going to be hanging.
You don't know what he's got planned here, because the
I
spirit,
don't.
the spirit
this
has
is all
moved.
you, Bill.
The spirit has moved, Jeff, and has placed something on his heart that is tied in directly to the conversation that we just had. This is incredible. Yeah, you got to stick around and listen to what Jeff has. He's going to be joining us every week, and he's going to be the special, Cowboy Poet-Laureate of the Jeff and Bill Show. We will find an official title and stuff, but
And if you've never heard of cowboy poetry,
then what the hell have you been doing?
It is another level,
Colorado?
because you're probably like me, where you're like, poetry.
Yeah,
Robert Fromm. I don't know.
I can do that. Two roads diverge into a narrow, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's like the
only.
only poetry I know. But I'm a huge fan of Louis L'Amour. I think I've read just about everything Louis has done, which is the same story written over and over and over again. But young man heads west. Young man faces problem. Young man notices girl. Young man defeats problem. Young man rescues girl. Repeat for 200 books, and that's Louis L'Amour's career. But I love it. Cowboy poetry will hit your soul in a way that you need on this Friday morning. You're not going to want to miss it. But let's check in first on the news and commentary with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, TGIF, Jeff and Billy and everyone in the studio. That was a great segment, great hour. Actually, the last 2 hours right here on KNUS. 63 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 83 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, police investigating a triple shooting that happened early this morning in Commerce City. One person is dead. The investigation is underway.
In the community, police coming every day, shooters, somebody died twice. I think somebody died over here. So that's why the police is very alert, and they're going to move everybody from here.
So that's Jose in Aurora. Nice job by Jeff and the gang checking out the Aurora neighborhood invaded by Venezuelan gangs. Jose is one of the people who try to live there.
Whatever happens, Mr. Maduro, the president of Venezuela, he take the guys from the jail and they send it to him with $300 in the pocket. Wow. That's what Mr. Trump, he say, they're coming criminals and, they come from jail. That's why Mr. Trump, he's okay. One thing, Mr. Trump, I mean, I don't like Mr. Trump, but he was right when the thing where he say they're coming from jail, they're coming from criminals, coming from America, and they want to clean the stuff.
Profound interview there. Texas Congressman Chip Roy in studio with Lauren Boebert and John Fabbricatore this morning. Here's Roy.
And I was here when that flag got hoisted up the pole upside down, and the Mexican flag got hoisted up the pole. And so I called Tom Homan, and he hooked me up with John, and I came out and visited the facility and was here to try to shine a light on what was happening. That was 5 years ago. Now we've done nothing but allow and appease the Biden-Harris administration to do what they're doing. And everybody listening to this, you need to know your way of life is under assault. It's purposeful. They're releasing people into the United States for their political gain. They're using migrants as basically their crass political pawns, endangering them and endangering you.
Fabbricatore helped bring attention to it a couple of weeks ago in the studio, and Boebert's doing what she can in D.C.
It's incredible. This is from a migrant telling you that, yes, this is happening. He knows that these criminals are entering the United States. From somebody, he's like, Mr. Trump, he's okay. I don't like him that much, but, come on.
But he's right.
Come on. We're listening to this in real time. And Jason Crow is out there saying, it's a figment of our imagination. And this is right-wing conspiracy theories.
Right. And they are being sent here from the jails in these countries, from Venezuela. So the crime rate's actually down in Venezuela, and it's increasing here because all their prisoners are here in America. And for Jason Crow to say that there's no evidence of this, and this is just due to like poverty or low living poor living conditions, is absolutely false.
Crazy. Former President Trump speaking to the New York Economic Club last night. If you're undecided, this has to be a great reason to vote for Trump, especially in Colorado.
Very, very low. We'll get them down. We had them down to 2.4% and even lower than that for a period of time. Reducing mortgage rates is a big factor. We're going to get them back down to, we think, 3%, maybe even lower than that, saving the average home buyer thousands of dollars per year. They can now go out. Young people will be able to buy a home again and be a part of the American dream.
One person is in custody following a deadly road rage shooting in Denver's Baker neighborhood. Officers spotted a crash car near West Byers Place and South Calumet Street on Thursday afternoon and found the driver suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim was rushed to a hospital, but he died of his injuries. Investigators determined he had been shot during a road rage incident on South Santa Fe Drive. Kion Kendrick was arrested in connection with the crime. The 21-year-old is being held on investigation of first-degree murder, and formal charges are pending.
Every single mental health professional that reviewed this guy for sanity found him to be sane. And he said it twice. And what that told me right then and there is the defense could not find somebody to say that their client was sane. And that's amazing.
The great George Brauchler on his old show with Jeff and Billy this morning, analysis of the Boulder King Soopers mass shooting trial, which is underway. Ahmad Alyssa is accused of killing 10 people inside the store 3 years ago and has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. George says DA Michael Doherty uncovered some new information.
The number, nature, and kind of wounds that they have tell you that this guy acted with intent. And that's important because when you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, you're eating that you engaged in the conduct. You're admitting that, right? But in Colorado, which has the highest, toughest standard for insanity on prosecutors in America, the prosecutor now has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt two whole things. One is that you could form the intent to murder after deliberating, and that two, you knew right from wrong. If you can't prove both those beyond a reasonable doubt, dude's going to be sent to a state mental hospital instead of prison. That's just going to happen.
All right, big weekend of college football. Air Force takes on San Jose State. UNC is at CSU in Fort Collins. CU, of course, takes on Nebraska, Idaho at Wyoming. It's going to be a great weekend. 60 in Broomfield, 61 in Greenwood Village, and 63 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. TGIF, Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Beautiful September weather for Denver in the Front Range. Enjoy. Days will be warm and sunny with low humidity. The nights will be clear, getting a little cooler. You can crack that window open at night. We're looking at low to mid 80s today, middle to upper 80s Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Nights will mostly stay in the 50s. Chances of rain will be just a few isolated thunderstorms near the mountains. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
This is awkward.
What's that, Billy?
How do we win 50 cents in front of Jeff Brown?
This is rap is just poetry with a beat.
It is, but I don't think that Jeff's going to do anything about getting
now,
in the club.
would you? This is a question. People are always like Tupac. And Tupac is one of the best poets.
Tupac's fantastic.
Really?
Yes.
Tupac is a poet?
Yes, absolutely.
I've always heard that, and I'm like,
Yeah. And it again depends on the flow, depends on who you're talking about. And some of them not so much. But Tupac, absolutely.
California love.
Well, that's some of it. Yeah, that's Dr. Dre. If you go into some of the stuff that Biggie did, That's really, really good.
Jeff is seriously questioning whether
I
or not he should have
know,
done
I know.
this
He's going.
interview.
He's like, why the hell am I on this show today? And your friend Jeff, Killer Mike is next level. He's something that's real different out there. So, but that's Run the Jewels. So.
Jeff Hildebrandt.
Yeah.
I am one Pac.
Oh, that's good. That is fantastic.
Because you're the OG. You were the original poet rapper.
I told Bill that he can introduce me from now on as Taj.
Yes.
Taj, the unknown poet.
Yeah, because
I won't be unknown anymore because of the cameras.
I know.
That's true.
Holy
That's
cow.
Yeah.
Mark,
it's no
long
longer.
shot.
It's
Mark, long shot.
And again, he was doing Taj. TAJ is the other Jeff.
TOJ, the other Jeff.
The other
Taj.
Jeff.
He's the other Jeff.
So over the last 2 weeks, we've been playing his cowboy poetry, which I just adore. And Jeff works here at 710 KNUS, so he's part of the family.
He is.
I
And been doing this
actually
for a
get
while.
paid for some of it.
Right.
Wait, you're getting paid? Okay, we got to talk. I'm just allowed to clean up the fridge every Friday.
Yeah.
Anything that I find that's not fuzzy and moving, I get to keep.
So first of all, explain to people your career in radio, and then we'll get to your poetry.
I've been in radio and television for a long time. Go ahead.
No, that's not fair.
He's
at
learned
all, because
sum it up. You could write that on a bio for a tweet.
Because longtime listeners to KNUS will understand the conversations that Jeff had with Peter Boyles, where it was a wonderful walk down memory lane. Jeff, you worked with a very important cable channel for a while, one that didn't get the attention it needed to, but was something of it was a step back into Americana and American lifestyle and what was going on early in TV and film. And you got to work with some of the best as far as Western actors and actresses. Talk to us about what you did.
I did. And as a matter of fact, it was the Encore, Stars Encore Westerns channel. And I was a producer, managing producer there. And at one point, little known fact, and it may in fact be true, I don't know for sure, but we were told that we had more listeners, more viewers than HBO.
Wow.
If
Makes
you
sense.
can believe that. And that was not long after we actually started. This is before the days of all the stations that currently run Western TV shows, Western movies, that sort of stuff. We were the only gig in town. And so it had a big audience. And I was blessed to be able to go around to different festivals, Western festivals around the country, film festivals, that sort of thing. And what I was doing was trying to bring awareness of the fact that we were in existence. Because these people, they'd been having festivals in Scottsdale, Arizona, and different places, Texas. But they had no idea there was somebody playing the movies on cable TV. We finally broke that barrier, and they were nice enough, the people at the channels, at the festivals were nice enough to let me perform poetry, cowboy style poetry, to enhance the availability of the Westerns channel if they wanted to get it.
Gosh, I love that.
So
as the chairman of the Western Conservative Summit, I inherited a thing that was generally a political conference.
Yeah.
But I remember going, we're not really leaning into our first name. And so I spent a lot of time reflecting on what it means to be Western.
Right.
What does it mean to be Western, Jeff Hildebrandt?
That's difficult because I certainly am not a cowboy. I don't raise cattle. I don't fix fence, anything like that. But I have a sense of freedom. I have a sense of just the great things about this country and what the country has allowed people to do. So, and I think self-fulfillment is part of it. you are what you can make of yourself, without, stepping on a lot of toes. But it's like, John Wayne's character was an introvert. Cowboy heroes are introverts who are forced into situations and they step up to the cause, but they're not out there looking to corral people and bring them into their beliefs or anything like that. But a cowboy, a Western lifestyle, is someone who wants to do the right thing for the right reason. And if you don't like it, that's okay. Let me do what I'm doing. If it doesn't affect you directly, then let me do it. And I'm going to fix it for somebody else who needs it to be fixed.
It kind of hits the Colorado political philosophy too. That's why I've always described Colorado as a socially libertarian state to that point. That we kind of just allow people to live and do what they want. I was always caught in the history of our country as it relates to the West, because if you were a successful East Coast family, you didn't head west. If you were a good business family in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or Philadelphia or something like that, you generally just stayed there. It was a unique group of people that went west.
Yeah.
Describe those people a little bit.
Well, that's difficult. That's difficult. I'm not a historian, and you come at it from a different perspective than I do. I can look back to the Dust Bowl days and the stories there about people heading that way. When you think of it today, you can almost equate our situation with what happened in the Dust Bowl. But it's not our situation per se, but everybody at the southern border is coming from an untenable situation.
Yeah.
And they are in their Dust Bowl and they're trying to move to greener pastures. And we're it. We're the closest thing they have to being able to live an adequate life.
I experienced that yesterday firsthand. Believe me. I can tell you that's exactly right, Jeff.
Yeah.
So, Billy, Jeff, what do we got? We got some
we got some
poetry?
poetry that's coming up here, and this is something that Jeff did just off the spur of the moment, based on the conversation that was going on with Congressman Roy, Congresswoman Boebert, and with congressional candidate John Fabbricatore. So there are those times, and Jeff very eloquently, and I'm gonna break this for you, Jeff. Very eloquently off air, we're talking about it, and he said, "These aren't my words; these are God's words. I'm just the messenger." So he was moved this morning, based on what we were talking about, and he's got something special for us.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, this is cool.
Okay, you'll have to pardon me. Those of you on YouTube, you'll have to pardon me for reading, because I have to, and you'll have to pardon Mark Crowley for not providing enough light for me to be able to see adequately. But I understand, it's the face is not worth the airtime. Anyway, okay, here we go. Let me see if I can read this. There's turmoil in Aurora, denial in DC. Gangs are taking over, as we've witnessed on TV. We hear they're Venezuelan who left their country's jail and headed to our open arms, and there begins the tale. So how about an ending? Right now, it seems remote. Until you see what's clear to me, you end it with your vote.
Wow.
Okay, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. Tell me
Dude,
about
it's
it.
amazing how much you can communicate.
Yeah, and
in
did that
so
this
few
morning
words.
in about half an hour, sitting behind us. Yeah, in the room behind us, about a half an hour. Yeah, that's why Jeff Hildebrandt's the Cowboy Poet-Laureate of the Jeff and Bill Show. This is why.
That's Lariat.
I like that. That's even better. That's even better, my friend. That is
Jeff,
wonderful.
how do you think like that? I've always wondered, like I'm not an artist. I'm a very linear thinker. So like, help me understand the process.
I wish I did. I wish I understood it. I was just listening. As this example, I was just listening to what you guys were saying and the whole theme. And I remember listening earlier about your interviews and what was said. There was one person talking about him getting out of jail with $300 and sent up to the United States. So I heard that. I've seen the gang problems on TV, the shot from the doorbell camera, whatever. And so all of that's kind of up there and going on. But then I heard what you guys were talking about. And then it's just a question of picking the right word that rhymes with another word at the end of the sentence. That's what it boils down to. And I sit there and scribble one thing, and I can't think of a rhyme with that, so I change the ending of the word of the line and think of another word, and then it kind of comes together. And I really believe that it's not me. People talk about inspiration, mentors, that sort of stuff. And what I tell people when I perform, when I recite my poetry, I didn't write it. It came to me. I believe it's God. God is opening up my mind. God is providing the words. I just, in high school, learned how to type. And so that's the reason I'm here.
I mean, going back to your youth there and your love of this and your craft of it, were you like into Robert Frost? Was it?
No.
I mean,
No.
how what pulled you into all this?
You're not doing T.S. Eliot? No.
Nothing. I started writing Christian-based, faith-based poetry.
Nice.
Long before I started Western-style poetry. And I wrote what I referred to as confrontational Christian poetry because of my bringing my youth and the experiences I had in church.
Confrontational.
It's like
think me.
I'm not going to.
Pretty much what I do.
Yeah. But there's a lot of things that are unsaid in church, and a lot of things that happen in church that don't really manifest themselves in faithful living.
Yes.
All right. My history is I grew up in church. I grew up going to church. When I was a little kid, I went with my grandparents to church. We'd sit in a big church. I'd slide across the pews like little kids do, I grew up going to church. I was confirmed into a church. 2 years of training. I learned how to be this denomination.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I learned how to be that denomination. And then I went to another denomination as I got older, was elected on the boards of churches and one of the ruling elders, they call them. And I was in a larger synod committees and all this stuff. And these people are doing great things, but they're not doing the thing that Jesus Christ called us to do. The poor will always be with us. Remember that? I did. And so at one point, this committee I was on was asked to give money for the poor. in some regard or other. I don't remember. It's been years. But it was like, we've got this money that we can donate. Let's just throw it in the pot with everybody else. And I said, no, think about this. Our job is to promote Christ and what Christ came for and the teachings of the gospel. If we throw our donation in a pot, who knows that? Nobody. And so it's better if we give it and it has our tag to it. This is from this denomination, here, because we believe that you are worth it.
And there's a message that comes with that gift.
Yeah. And so generally my purpose was to, and you caught me off base here, so I'm not prepared for this. Pardon me.
It's what we do here on the show.
It's kind of what the show does.
But my purpose was to look the church leaders in the face and slap them into awareness. You are here looking for the donation. You want the 10%. You want people to come and support your church. But what I want is for you to show the way to Christianity, to eternity through Christ.
Whew.
And that's the reason I wrote poetry that they hated.
I like those guys.
This is why we're friends.
It was very confrontational. And I thought, this is good stuff. This is meaningful stuff.
Yeah.
Here, read this. What do you think? They ignored it.
Yeah,
Totally.
I bet they didn't put you on the board either.
Newspapers printed it. There was a section where every week they would print something that I had written, and other places, but the churches, no. Now, let me know if I'm going over time or if you've cut away. Anyway.
We stopped the show a long time ago.
Okay,
this is all
thanks.
just for our own imaginations.
Thanks.
No, I'm kidding.
It's, 3 Ps in a podcast.
Yes.
When I came out here to the Denver area, and I worked for the Westerns channel, and we were going around, as I mentioned, to different festivals, and I had the opportunity to get up on stage and talk to people. What I did was put a saddle on this Christian poetry. So I would start off in a Christian, in a cowboy vein, so they would feel at home in a Western poetry conference, whatever. But the message was the same. I just couched it different. I put a saddle, and these people who listened loved it. And people in the churches and the denomination leaders, they didn't want to hear it.
Wow.
But it's the same
That's
message.
fascinating.
Now that's changed a little bit.
Just a little.
It's changed a little bit, but it's changed considerably at the church I go to now, which is a large church in this area. There are groups that will have me come in and do poetry, like one Sunday a month, first Sunday of the month, and things like that, in what they call connect groups, which are Sunday school classes. Anyway,
so
that's amazing.
Well, Billy,
and how many people here that are listening with Jeff and Bill right now have experienced that in their church, where what is going on at the top of leadership isn't focused on either necessarily the growth of the congregation or the message that is contained inside the book that brings us our faith.
Yeah.
How many people have experienced that? And that's exactly what Jeff was going through. And he was standing there, and outside the church, his voice was being appreciated. His voice was being heard. But inside the community that he was supposed to help lead and belong to, they were ignoring his voice because they weren't agreeing with their plan, his plan. They wanted to do it their own way, and it was more insular, focused on just the church itself rather than the growth
And
of the
I think we've got some more poetry coming in from him. But Bill, tell us about Balanced Well Space.
Yeah, I got to tell you about Balanced Well Space. I am having an amazing time not having pain. Yeah, I know. I used to live my life in pain. I thought that that's just what happens when you get older. That it's the old guy thing. You get up and out of the chair and go, oh, geez, that hurts. It doesn't have to be that way, but I didn't know that until I talked to the medical professionals at Balanced Well Space. I want you to talk to them too, because they can fix that pain you're dealing with every day. Check them out, balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. This is why they are different. Integrative medicine. Under one roof, you can get chiropractic care, neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so much more. The list is so long, I can't read it right now. Plus, they have some amazing, non-invasive, cutting-edge techniques that can change your life. You don't have to get up and out of bed every day with that pain. You don't have to just deal with it and change how you're living your life. Go back to doing what you want to do with Balanced Well Space. You sit down with the team, they evaluate you. They take the pictures, they do the x-rays, and talk to you about your pain and then what you're not doing. Then they put together a custom plan based on you. From there, they go to work. They start healing what hurts. And they do it a variety of different ways, and that's what makes integrative medicine at Balanced Well Space different. It's one office visit, but you get a whole series of care. You can do a little bit of a workout, then you can get some neuropathic care, then you can get some chiropractic care, some regenerative care. They'll take care of multiple things that are wrong with you all in one office, rather than you visiting a whole bunch of offices and taking up all that time and driving and the other appointments throughout your week. One stop in Lowry. Brand new offices right across the street from Hangar 2. Right there in Lowry, gorgeous big parking lot and shady trees that I enjoy. I like to park under the shade. Now, check them out, balancewellspace.com. Talk to Dr. Julie, Dr. Jess. They can make a difference in your life just like they are in mine. I have 2 vertebrae that are fusing in the bottom of my back. I don't have the tingling or the pain anymore. They're regenerating the meniscus that is torn in my left knee right now. My left knee used to be my bad knee. After working with Balanced Well Space, my left knee is now my stronger knee. Yeah, they are that good. They can make a difference in your life just like they're making in mine. Check them out. Make an appointment today. Balancewellspace.com. Balancewellspace.com. And do me a favor. Tell them you heard about them on Jeff and Bill Show.
Great to hear you getting that service done, Billy. All right, we'll continue with Jeff Hildebrandt. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS. Welcome back, Jeff and Bill Show, KNUS, 710 AM. We are sitting down with the newly christened Poet-Laureate, the Cowboy Poet-Laureate, Jeff Hildebrandt of the Jeff and Bill Show. I made him laugh when I said that, and that's what I was looking for. Oh, Jeff, we sure appreciate your time here, and I wanted to ask you just a quick story. It's one of my favorites that you talk about when you're working with the Western Channel. There is a very significant Western actor that you tried to get on the channel for an interview and to do some things, and it didn't come together. And then there is this tragic story that you hear from his widow after he passes away. Can you share that with us?
No.
Okay. Well, then in that case.
No, I was working at the Westerns Channel, and of course, we're showing Western movies, Western TV shows, and one of the biggies is Gene Autry. Everybody knows Gene Autry.
Yeah.
And so I call out to Autry's agent, who is his lawyer, and say, we'd like to do an interview with him to talk about his movies and Western career, et cetera, et cetera. He said, well, yeah, he doesn't do anything for less than $50,000. And this was at the beginning of the Westerns Channel, and we had no money. It's non-commercial. So they were having trouble paying me, and I was under minimum wage. And so at any rate, I said, well, sorry, we can't do it. And years later, Gene has passed away, and we're out in California for a memorial tribute to Gene Autry with the Westerns Channel. And his widow comes up to me and says, Gene and I watch the Westerns Channel all the time, and he always wondered why you never wanted to interview him.
Yeah.
And I said, I tried, but his lawyer wanted too much money, and we would have done it for nothing. Yeah, well, there you go.
Oh, that stinks.
I know precisely what that's like to run into their handlers, and if you can just get around them.
Yeah,
those
exactly.
people.
You can just get around them.
Yeah,
yeah. Now,
it's like me. I had to go through Kelly to get here at this point. It was just.
I know.
Exactly. Now, Jeff, you have got another piece of poetry that you're going to share with our listeners.
I do, and I apologize now if this offends anybody.
Oh, I'm really interested now.
I really don't care, but I just need to get that on record. Anyway, so here's the story. The way things in Washington are going, the way they solve problems, reminds me of a tale from the Old West. The owner of the J-Bar H had supper with the crew and later told the foreman, there's something that you got to do. I've noticed quite a pungent and unpleasant sort of stink coming from the bunkhouse. So this is what I think. If the men would change their underwear more often than they do, and the place would smell much better. So I'm leaving it up to you. Well, the foreman told the wranglers, the boss thinks you guys stink and says to change your underwear. So this is what I think. Kyle Clark, you change with Billy. Jeff, you change with Bob. And if you change back in a week, that should do the job. The moral of this story has been known for quite a spell. Not every change that's promised will take away the smell.
Oh, my goodness.
And he just added Kyle Clark.
I know. That is so fantastic.
I love it.
Oh, you are a gift, sir. You are a gift. This is wonderful. Awesome. We'll try to return you later, but still, you're a gift.
Do we have one more?
I don't know if he has. I have a short one if we can.
Okay, hold on. Let me do this read here for Dan Kaplis and our good friend over there. Speaking of good guys we love, Dan Kaplis and Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Look, I've known Dan for well over a decade. This guy's pro-life, pro-family, pro-America. That matters because you don't just want to hire some dude you saw on the bus billboard go by to represent you in an injury case. You want somebody that shares your values. But more than that, Dan is a real winner. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. They trust him. But he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan Caplis is a serious firm for serious cases. He accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplislaw.com. That's 303-770-5551 or dancaplis.com. All right, we'll continue, Bill. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, let's step aside and then let's do the break.
One
last
final cowboy poetry. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show, a special Friday edition as Jeff Hildebrandt joins us live in studio. He is the 710 KNUS Cowboy, Poet, Laureate. Fantastic. And you got another one for us.
I
Jeff?
do. I'm going to give you some cold, hard facts.
Oof, give it to me.
Warn your friends and neighbors, this must be understood. The government did research, and the news is not too good. Drinking vodka over ice can lead to kidney trouble, and any rum done on the rocks affects your liver double. I'm warning you to warn your friends so they will understand and make required adjustments to parties they have planned. Those frozen margaritas cause more than just brain freeze, and drinking whiskey over ice can cause your heart to seize. The government spent millions. Now they say what you should do is change your drinking habits, because all that ice is bad for you.
So it's the neat. Got to take it neat, right?
Yes,
then it solves all that problems.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now Jeff's going to be joining us every Friday. He'll have something new for us based on how the spirit moves him. It could be something political, could be something just going on in his life, could be something that is going to lean more into spirituality. But that's why we are different, because we're going to bring this type of entertainment for you. And we're so happy to have Jeff Hildebrandt as part of the show.
You're actually different because you laugh.
I appreciate that's a very true statement with regards to conservative talk radio. We have fun here.
We do. Yeah, we are not like anything else out there. And this is why. This is part of it, is because, there is another national show that does have a poet. But I'm telling you, Jeff brings the edge. The guy does national. It's very, very good. Very good. But there's an edge. And plus, this is cowboy poetry. This is about Colorado. This is celebrating the Western culture, the Western lifestyle, celebrating our faith, celebrating conservatism, and celebrating this station. That's why Jeff is now part of the team. And we are so happy to. And he makes us all smarter. That's the other part, too.
We'll put up this audio on the show.
I make you seem smarter because I'm not.
No, you're making us smarter because of it. And these will be on the podcast page individually, so you can share them.
Fantastic.
You don't have to go and find them. All of them will be there. They'll be the last ones that I load this morning, so everybody can share those with friends and family.
We love Western. We love Cowboy. We love Jesus. We love America. It's all pulled in together in that poetry.
Yeah, it is. It's
fantastic. Jeff Hildebrandt, thanks so much for being on the program today.
Thank you, my friend.
Hey, we've had an absolutely fantastic show. I mean, one for the record books. George Brachler joined us in the 6 o'clock hour. Dive into the King Soopers, the Boulder King Soopers shooting trial that just opened up yesterday.
And he gave us some insight that nobody else has
exactly
out there
right.
about what happened inside the opening statements. Why did the defense concede one major point on day number one, and how some of the information that you just found out in that opening argument from the prosecution makes this shooting look so much worse than what all of our audience has been told.
It was shocking.
Yeah.
So you want to listen to that 6 o'clock hour. Then we reported directly from the apartments overrun by Venezuelan gangs, giving you insight to the people that actually live there.
Who else
and
went
have
talked
to
to
deal
them?
with that?
Who else? Who else here in town went down and talked to them? Where else are you going to hear their voices, the people impacted by the gangs? The things that are supposed to be imaginary, according to
Plus, Lauren Boebert, John Fabbricatore, and Chip Roy all live in studio, plus Cowboy Poetry. Wow, what a Friday show. If you missed any of it, go to 710 KNUS to download the podcast. Charlie Kirk and Cal Thomas are up next. You've been listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS. This is how we roll. Have a good weekend.